Warrior Lore. Chapter 1580. Kyushu was already in an uproar, and legalism had also received the news. The golden-winged rocks are too arrogant. Do they really think our legalism has no one? Within the hall, the old man who'd been leading the charge to suppress Du Xiaofu had a gloomy expression. The heaven-shaking sect and the sky-sun sect had been destroyed. They were followers of legalism in the outside world, the foundation of Ningzhou and Liezhou. They were the foundation for legalism's return to Kyushu. But now, they'd been directly destroyed by the golden-winged rocks. This was a slap to the face of legalism in front of the entire world. Slap. As soon as the old man finished speaking, another slap appeared on his face. It was the work of the ancestor of legalism, Li Chunfa. A bunch of trash. If it weren't for you, how could you have provoked the golden-winged rocks? Li Chunfa coldly shouted. His expression was gloomy, and the handprint on his face hadn't even disappeared. The ones he was truly sullen about were the two mysterious old men. The old man called Fuibai was so powerful that even he couldn't touch him. Those two slaps made him see stars. He was the one he feared the most. The old man didn't dare to say anything else. He covered his face as if he'd been wronged. He was also sullen. Who would have thought that a mere Du Xiaofu, a brat who could have been trampled on so easily, an ant whom legalism didn't place in its eyes, would attract so many experts? With the heaven-shaking sect and the sky-sun sect destroyed, the old men and experts of legalism in the hall were speechless. If the school of Moism and the school of Inyang had attacked, they could have fought back. At worst, they'd just fight to the death and both sides would suffer. However, the golden-winged rocks had no foundation in the outside world. They'd never come out, and they didn't even have a base in the Beast region. There was no way for them to take revenge. As for the nest of the golden-winged great rocks, other people dared to come to the nest of the legalism, but the legalism did not dare to go to the nest of the golden-winged great rocks. Contact the dragons, school of vertical and horizontal, as well as the Taoists and Buddhists. The golden-winged rocks have gone too far. Investigate Fu Yibai's background. Qin Tianji spoke. He could not help but feel fear in his heart. Kyushu was in turmoil, and all parties were targeting the desolate country. Back on Tianhuang mainland, the demon king Du Xiaofu had killed many disciples of legalism. When he attacked the Great Wheel sect, the golden-winged great rocks had appeared and helped him. It was not difficult to guess that the demon king Du Xiaofu had something to do with the destruction of the heaven-shaking sect and the sky-sun sect. At this moment, Du Xiaofu was still comprehending in the desolate ancient space. The talisman patterns on his body were dazzling, and the 5 fingers of the lightning mountain evolved. The golden talisman patterns entered his body and nourished it. Immersed in comprehension, Du Xiaofu was oblivious to everything around him. However, the aura of the 5-finger mountain behind him, which was already wrapped in electric arcs, was getting stronger and more terrifying, as if it was continuing to transform. What is nirvana? Du Xiaofu murmured. At this moment, he was comprehending in Du Xiaoyao's runic space. He was also comprehending himself, trying to break through the bottleneck in his body. Nirvana extinguishes life and death, extinguishes worries, freeing oneself from inaction, freeing oneself from death. Nirvana is a great realm, also known as liberation. Nirvana is the liberation of life, death, and worries. In front of Du Xiaofu, the huge 5-finger mountain opened its mouth. It was Du Xiaoyao's voice. At this moment, they were one. Du Xiaofu asked, and it answered. What is liberation? Du Xiaofu asked again. It's like being imprisoned and seeing the light of day again, gaining freedom and liberation. Du Xiaoyao said, you are now trapped by yourself. There is a prison in your heart, and you are bound layer by layer. You are trapped in greed, anger, and infatuation, unable to free yourself. You can't see the truth of the Dharma, and you can't see the impermanence of the Dharma. Have you taken that step? Du Xiaofu asked. No, I am comprehending. Du Xiaoyao said. These are only words from the depths of my spirit. I don't know who left them, but they are useful to me. I understand a little. Exterminating all sentient beings. Exterminating all sentient beings. There are no sentient beings. Those who are exterminated, there is no self in the Dharma, and they have achieved nirvana. Because there is a self, They return to calmness and lifelessness, cool and free. It is called silence. Du Xiaofu murmured. The nirvana form of Dharma cannot be declared righteously. It is called nirvana. The nirvana form of Dharma cannot be declared righteously. I have also comprehended it. Du Xiaoyao's voice rang out. In the calmness, there was a hint of chaos. Boom, after a few days, behind Du Xiaofu, the five-finger mountain peak floated out. The silver-gold talisman patterns flickered with dazzling light. Electric arcs overflowed everywhere, and endless dazzling light burst out. The talisman patterns were dazzling, and the electric arcs wreaked havoc like a thunder sun in the sky. Finally, the five-finger mountain peak with silver-gold electric arcs began to change. There was a strong life essence awakening, and it turned into a red-bone horseape. Oh, the red-bone horseape roared like rolling thunder. Ayo, at the same time. In this purple mist space, Du Xiaoyao's body also turned into a huge red-bone horseape. The red-bone horseape's body was wrapped in talisman patterns. It was sparkling and translucent, and its body was wrapped in multicolored light. It was full of vitality, and it communicated with the heaven and earth. It gave people a feeling of the beginning of the heaven and earth. But when everything finally calmed down, everything returned to nothingness. The red-bone horseape wrapped in silver-gold electric arcs turned into a dazzling electric arc and disappeared into the space between Du Xiaofu's eyebrows. After a moment, Du Xiaofu's eyelashes trembled, and he opened his eyes. Golden light flickered in his eyes, and then it became clear again. Du Xiaofu's face revealed a smile. He felt that he had transformed again. It was a nirvanic transformation, as if he had gone through reincarnation and comprehended a new life. It was an indescribable feeling. Ayo, Du Xiaoyao roared. Its body was sparkling and translucent, and the monkey hair on its head was colorful. Its eyes were quick-witted, as if it was born with spiritual eyes, looking down on everything. After a long time, the talisman patterns that filled the sky continuously poured into its body. A terrifying aura erupted, as if it could sweep across the four directions and suppress everything. When everything calmed down, the monkey's body shrunk, and the light receded, turning into a golden-robed young man. The golden-robed young man had a handsome face. His long eyelashes were slightly curled, covering a pair of bright and deep golden eyes. He exuded a noble aura, and there was a faint golden mark between his eyebrows that flickered like a flame, adding to its profoundness. Have you comprehended lightning? Du Xiaofu looked at Du Xiaoyao in astonishment. He could clearly feel that there was an additional lightning aura in Du Xiaoyao's body, and it was the aura of 3 types of spiritual lightning in his body. I have some comprehension, but it's still shallow. Du Xiaoyao smiled, and it was obvious that she was extremely happy. I still have some things to do, so I need some time, Du Xiaofu said. Before coming out of seclusion, there were still some things that he needed to do to prepare for his future entry into the divine domain. Dusk, World Society, Desolate Country, Sky Beast Hall, Tianwu Academy, and 7-Star Hall gathered in the center of the palace. Jin Xingchun, Apothecary Yi Wuming, Yi Piaoling, Qiuli, Zither Demon, Gui Che, Du Xiaoyao, Du Xiaoqing, Yi Wuming, General, Dongli Diao, Lin Weiqi, and the others were all present. Ning Prefecture's Heaven-Shaking Sect and Thunder Prefecture's Sky Sun Sect have been annihilated, with countless casualties. Since then, they have disappeared from Kyushu. It's the doing of the golden-winged Great Peng clan. Rumor has it that the Heaven-Shaking Sect and Sky Sun Sect are outside forces of legalism. Du Xiaofu received this news from the Moon Shadow Hall. This is the old lady's doing. She is still angry. Du Xiaofu didn't even need to think to know that it was the old lady's doing. If it wasn't the old lady, then it must be the strongest elder. Otherwise, it wouldn't be easy to annihilate the Sky Sun Sect and Heaven-Shaking Sect. Venting my anger, Jin Xingchun, Du Yunlong, Gui Che, Phantom Tiger King, and the others all let out a sigh of relief. They were very excited. The golden-winged Great Peng clan had annihilated the Sky Sun Sect and Heaven-Shaking Sect in one night. How domineering was this? It had already caused a commotion in Kyushu. Rumor has it that the God Domain is about to open. Everyone must be prepared. Du Xiaofu said to everyone in the main hall. This time, the reason he called everyone back was because of the opening of the divine domain. It was rumored that the divine domain was the most mysterious existence in the world. There were countless great opportunities inside, but there were also countless dangers. Du Xiaofu wanted everyone to enter and obtain the opportunities. Is the God domains opening? Gurei Che, Phantom Tiger King, and the others heard some rumors about the God domain space. What kind of place is the God domain space? However, there were also people who didn't know about it. For example, Dong Lidiao, Lin Weiqi, the general, Gu Xinyan, Wu Kei, and the others had never heard of the God domain space. Rumor has it that it's a mysterious place between heaven and earth. Once you obtain the opportunities inside, you can become the most powerful existence in the world. Someone explained to the general, Gu Xinyan, Dong Lidiao, and the others. When the God domain space opens, anyone in the world can enter. The 9 great families, the dragons of the 4 seas, the phoenix clan of Wudong Mountain, the beast region, the Yao region, and others can all enter. Du Xiaofu opened his mouth and told everyone about God's domain, informing them of the things they needed to pay attention to. Saint-grade medicinal pills, Saint-grade martial skills, Saint-grade primordial spirit skills, Saint-grade treasures. After hearing all the rumors about the God domain space, Du Yunlong, Dong Lidiao, the general, and the others were filled with anticipation and shock. They sucked in cold breaths and swallowed their saliva. If a supremacy cultivator can break through to the martial domain realm, it's very likely that it's the nirvana of a supremacy. Yi Piaoling's pitch-black eyes were sharp. The God domain space is indeed miraculous. Great Elder Gong Dao and the others were also surprised. After hearing everything about the God domain space, from the pulsating realm to the boundary realm and the sealed domain realm, all experts could enter the God domain space. As long as they were qualified, they could enter the God domain space to seek opportunities. However, if ordinary people tried to force their way in, they would be killed by the God domain space. As for Master Apothecary Yi Wuming and Sacred Array Child Jin Qingchun, they already knew about it last time, so they weren't surprised now. Entering the martial domain realm after entering the God domain space, I wonder what kind of experience it will be. Many people were looking forward to it. Even if it was a cultivator at the spiritual pulse realm, as long as they were qualified to enter the divine domain, they would immediately transform into a cultivator at the domain realm who could move unhindered throughout the 9 states. How shocking would that be? Chapter 1581. Those who had yet to reach the martial domain realm would have the opportunity to experience what it was like to reach the domain realm. If they wanted to reach the real domain realm in the future, it would be much easier. More importantly, everyone who was qualified to enter would receive a life-saving talisman. Even if their divine souls were destroyed inside, the life-saving talisman would instantly reassemble their soul and physical body and send them safely out of the divine domain space. With such benefits, once the divine domain space opened, it would attract hundreds of millions of creatures. The divine domain space is about to open. This time, I asked everyone to come back so that you can understand the divine domain space. In addition, I will give some treasures to some of you. There aren't many treasures, so I can't distribute them one by one. The rest of you will receive some spiritual herbs and martial skills to prepare for entering the divine domain space. As Du Xiaofu finished speaking, many flowing lights flew out from his hands. Waves of rich energy were suddenly released in the main hall, and multicolored light soared into the sky. It was a large amount of spiritual herbs, treasured herbs, and other items that were not found by the legalism. They were hidden in the desolate ancient space in Du Xiaofu's mind. The purple lightning profound cauldron, purple gold heavenly palace, and other items in the God Watchtower were also placed in the desolate ancient space by Du Xiaofu. They were sealed and escaped the legalism search. Yilao, big sister, second brother, come with me, Du Xiaofu spoke, and then called Master Apothecary Yi Wuming, Great Tribulation Du Xiaoman, Du Yunlong, Du Xiaoqing, Yi Piaoling, Gu Qin Devil, General, Gu Xinyan, Dongli Diao, Lin Weiqi, and a few juniors of the Du family, a total of more than 20 people, into the desolate ancient space. Rumble. At this moment, there were dozens of treasures floating in the desolate ancient space. Everyone was awestruck. The dazzling runes soared into the sky, and the power that filled the air made everyone's hearts palpitate. Treasures. These are all great treasures. Iwuming, Dongli Diao, and the Qin Devil were all trembling under the pressure of the treasure. They wanted to kneel down because the pressure was simply too powerful. Coiling Dragon War God Armor, Heavenly Dragon Cover, Savage War Spear, Dragon Shadow and Phoenix Whip, Thunder Spike, Taihang Mountains, Mystic Radiance Void Sword, Buddha Shadow Beads, Evil Warding Yin Yang Chain, Limitless Glorious Star Spear. These are the treasures of the 9 great clans and the 9 dragons. Du Xiaofu explained the origins of these treasures to everyone. They had been won by legalism, and because they had been placed in the Purple Lightning Profound Cauldron, their connection to Master Void Spirit, Hong Qi, and the others had been easily severed. In the end, they had been placed in the ancient, desolate space to escape disaster. A few days ago, Du Xiaofu had cut off all the primordial divinity connections in these precious treasures. At this moment, all of these treasures had become ownerless. Heavens, a treasure from the 9 great clans. So many half-saint artifacts. At this moment, looking at the treasures in the ancient, desolate space, Iwuming and the others' eyes were blazing with excitement. These were the treasures of the 9 great clans and the dragons. Many of them were half-saint artifacts. How amazing! These treasures are sentient. You can choose the treasure you want to fuse with. Du Xiaofu said to everyone. He was also looking forward to it. If these treasures were successfully fused with each other, it would be enough to make everyone stronger. After a while, in the Purple Lightning Profound Cauldron that was placed by Du Xiaofu in the ancient, desolate space. Uncle Xiaofu, are you looking for me? Du Xiaoba's figure appeared in the Purple Lightning Profound Cauldron. He looked at Du Xiaofu curiously. Lightning flashed in the depths of his eyes. Just like his name, his small body was already emitting an overbearing aura. Are you afraid of pain? Du Xiaofu asked. I'm not afraid. My father said that only by enduring the most bitter of hardships can one rise above others. In the future, I will become an expert like Uncle Xiaofu. Du Xiaoba's immature voice was incomparably firm. Okay, Uncle will give you something first. Let's see if you have the opportunity to obtain it. Du Xiaofu patted Du Xiaoba's little head. He had always liked this little guy. Boom then, Du Xiaofu summoned something. Immediately, a golden light erupted and a vast and domineering aura swept out, causing the surrounding space to tremble violently. The golden light shone brightly, and a terrifying, overbearing aura swept out. Gee, a sharp cry resounded. In the golden light, there were golden talisman runes flickering. It was as if there was a golden-winged rock phantom flapping its wings. In the golden light, a pair of golden-winged rock appeared. Layers upon layers of golden feathers appeared. Its shape was fierce and domineering. It was wrapped in bright talisman runes. Chi-chi at this moment, lightning flashed in Du Xiaoba's eyes. There was a burst of golden light. It was as if a golden-winged rock was about to fly out. That was the golden-winged rock. It was pulled out by the people of legalism. Du Xiaofu did not intend to reintegrate it. After all, it was not something that belonged to him. Even if it was a perfect fusion, it was still just a fusion. Whether you can succeed or not will depend on your luck. Du Xiaofu said softly. Du Xiaoba's meridian spirit was a golden-winged rock. It was also a meridian spirit formed by the blood essence of Jialo Jueyu. But whether Du Xiaoba could obtain the golden-winged rock in the end, Du Xiaofu did not know. After all, the blood and bones in Du Xiaoba's body did not have much to do with the golden-winged rock. Everything depended on luck. What do you want to do in the desolate ancient space? The few disciples of legalism who had been restricted were brought here by Du Xiaofu. They looked at Du Xiaofu with shock in their eyes. I still have some use for you. I won't completely kill you, Du Xiaofu said with a cold expression. At the same time, a spiritual stove and talisman cauldron condensed in front of him. Arg, after a short while, screams of agony resounded endlessly and incessantly. The bright moon hung in the sky, and the stars shone resplendently. It was like silver sand pouring down from the heavens. In the back mountain of the Du family, Du Xiaofu stood alone in the cool and gorgeous night. His purple robes fluttered slightly, as if he was shaking off his sorrow. He gazed at the bright moon in the distance. Golden light flickered in the depths of his clear eyes as a chill flitted past. Mother, under the moonlight, Du Xiaofu clenched his fists tightly, his eyes flickering with golden light. How are your injuries? Suddenly, a voice rang out. It was Ouyang Shuang. She wore a green dress, and her hair was tied up in a bun. The thin strands of hair on her temples served as a foil to her peerless appearance. Du Xiaofu turned around. It was like the first time he had seen her in women's clothing. Her eyes were large and peerless. I'm fine. Du Xiaofu looked at Ouyang Shuang and asked with a smile, What about your master and Fui Bai? I don't know where they went. I couldn't catch up. Ouyang Shuang replied to Du Xiaofu, But my master said that the divine domain space is about to open. This will be the last time the divine domain space will open, and the danger will be even greater. He told us to be careful. What is the origin of Fui Bai and that old lunatic? Du Xiaofu was somewhat flabbergasted. He had already learned from Ouyang Shuang that Fui Bai and his master had slapped Li Chunfa and Qin Tianshi, the two ancestors of legalism. It was easy to imagine how tyrannical Fui Bai and that old lunatic's strength was. Furthermore, Fui Bai had previously stayed in the Du family. Du Xiaofu couldn't help but sigh inwardly. If he had known earlier that Fui Bai was so tyrannical, he would have directly taken Fui Bai as his master. Thank you for this time. You don't want the treasures. Du Xiaofu was helpless. He originally wanted to give Ouyang Shuang one of the treasures he obtained from the various families, but Ouyang Shuang didn't seem to be interested. Du Xiaofu was grateful that Ouyang Shuang had brought his master to legalism. My bai and sword won't be inferior to your treasures. It will only be stronger, not weaker. Ouyang Shuang curled her lips and said, Just don't risk your life in legalism next time. Next time, Du Xiaofu raised his eyebrows and smiled at Ouyang Shuang. Thank you for your help this time. If you were a woman, I would repay you with my body. But it's a pity. Are you asking for a beating? Ouyang Shuang looked at Du Xiaofu and her face sank. Her eyes were filled with warning anger. This guy is getting more and more impudent. She said, If you mention it again, I won't let you off. Fine, I won't mention it. But I'm not wrong. Last time, Uncle Ouyang told me to keep an eye on you. Du Xiaofu curled his lips and smiled. How am I not a woman? Ouyang Shuang glared at Du Xiaofu with a face full of anger. You don't look like one now, Du Xiaofu said as he looked at Ouyang Shuang. Okay. Ouyang Shuang glared fiercely at Du Xiaofu with her large eyes. She walked towards Du Xiaofu with light steps. What are you doing? Du Xiaofu instinctively took a step back, afraid that this tomboy would flip out. Ouyang Shuang glared at Du Xiaofu and bit her lips. She said angrily, I'll let you see if I'm a woman. You want to? Before Du Xiaofu could finish his sentence, he was fully prepared for Ouyang Shuang's sudden attack. However, he was caught off guard and couldn't speak. His lips were bitten by Ouyang Shuang. Their lips were pressed together and their eyes met. Du Xiaofu was stunned and lost in thought. Ouyang Shuang also seemed to be stunned. Her beautiful eyes were wide open and her gaze was blank. Damn! Du Xiaofu immediately came back to his senses. He looked at the eyes and face in front of him and was stunned. The taste is not bad, but in the end, Du Xiaofu couldn't control himself. Mustering his courage, he bit down on those soft red lips. He felt that the texture was quite good. It was a little different from the last time. It was less shy and more charming. Let go. At this moment, Ouyang Shuang seemed to be struggling. She wanted to prove that she was a woman, but at this moment, she realized that he was taking the initiative. She wanted to struggle, but a feeling of emptiness made her hold on to him. She closed her eyes as if she was enjoying the feeling of emptiness and deepened the kiss. Chapter 1582. Under the moonlight, Du Xiaofu hugged the woman in his arms. Their red lips were pressed together, tightly hugging her soft body. His hands were moving further. She let him do whatever he wanted, gently melting in his arms. No, this is the back of the mountain. Someone will come. It's okay. I'll set up a seal. You bastard. This will let people know. Don't worry, who will come to the back of the mountain at night? Boom. A moment later, a light curtain shrouded the back of the Du family. The sky was the cover, and the earth was the mat. Inside the light curtain, It was like a battlefield. The two's movements were clumsy, and their hearts were beating wildly. From the beginning, it was a light sigh. To the end, it was a storm. In the midst of the intensity, Yang Shuang felt as if she was drawn into a burning flame. It was so hot that she couldn't stop. She suddenly let out a sound. That was the pain of the first time, but it was accompanied by a wonderful feeling. It covered up the pain of the first time, and finally made her immersed in tenderness and be protected by him. Du Xiaofu felt that this should be his first time. The last 2 times happened in the illusion, but it did happen. He subconsciously felt familiar because he had experienced it before. This was a wonderful process. It was like a thunderstorm, then a cool autumn day, and finally the two were like a spring in which hundreds of flowers bloomed. They were in perfect harmony, and their souls flew away. The moistening was silent, but it made the two's hearts beat wildly. The two became one. Until the end, the two were still entangled with each other, and their bones were also entangled. In the night, at the back of the Du family's mountain, the moon also hid in the clouds. Boom! Suddenly, inside the seal, there was a terrible fluctuation of aura that swept out. There were electric arcs raging, and the aura soared to the sky. What's going on? What happened? I don't know either. Exclamations of 2 people came from within the seal. The 2 of them cried out in surprise. From Du Xiaofu's glabella, there was a bright light with an ancient aura. The yellow light turned into a golden light, and the golden electric arcs raged like the sun. Dazzling light burst out from the seal, making it hard for people to open their eyes. In the next instant, before Du Xiaofu and Yang Shuang could react, the resplendent golden lightning arc directly swept into Yang Shuang's flat and spotlessly white lower abdomen before disappearing without a trace. What's going on? Du Xiaofu was stunned, and so was Yang Shuang. It's that stone. Du Xiaofu was stunned, and the corner of his mouth twitched. That bright light came from the round stone in his Naiwan palace. The strange round stone that had been unshakable and had devoured Du Xiaofu's spiritual thunder, and the power of his nascent spirit had entered Yang Shuang's stomach. What stone? What's going on? Yang Shuang's mind was restrained. At this moment, she also felt that in her divine watchtower, besides the swan and eye sword, there was also a completely round stone. It was filled with an ancient aura, as if it was a living creature that was devouring the profound energy in her divine watchtower. It's a long story. Du Xiaofu roughly told Yang Shuang about the origin of the round stone. He himself did not know what the origin stone was. It seems to be moving. Yang Shuang stroked her lower abdomen. She felt that the stone seemed to be moving, like a heartbeat. It gave her an indescribable feeling, like a mother's instinct. The 2 of them thought of many methods, but in the end, they were unable to move the round and strange stone from Yang Shuang's divine watchtower. Helpless, the 2 of them could only give up. The next morning, when the earth had just woken up from the morning dew, the clouds rose. Through the gaps between the layers of green leaves, specks of golden light shone through, reflecting a flickering brilliance. When the seal disappeared, 2 figures with messy hair and disheveled clothes walked out. Du Xiaofu, you bastard. Didn't you say there was no one? Yang Shuang walked out of the seal and looked at the densely packed familiar figures at the back of the mountain. Her cheeks immediately flushed red, and she hurriedly fled. What are you looking at? We were just studying the stone. Du Xiaofu looked at the surrounding crowd. With a shake of his long sleeves, he stood with his hands behind his back and walked away. At this moment, in the back mountain of the Du family, Du Zhenwu, Du Zhixiang, Du Xiaoyao, Du Xiaoqing, Qiu Li, Grand Elder Gong Dao, Li Shui, and a few old kings, especially the South Protecting King, were all there. They all looked at each other and watched as one fled and the other pretended to be calm and left. Okay, there's nothing else. Disperse. Du Zhenwu came back to his senses and waved his hand to dismiss everyone. Haha, Jinan Wang, congratulations. Congratulations, Jinan Wang. The surrounding people came back to their senses and immediately cupped their fists to congratulate Jinan Wang with smiles on their faces. It's still too early to say, too early. Jinnan Wang cupped his fists in return. His mouth was graceful, but his old face was full of smiles. Old Master Ouyang, let's talk. Du Jinwu invited Jinnan Wang with a smile. Okay, let's talk. Jinnan Wang's face was full of smiles as if there was a happy occasion. Brother, why are you and Sister Shuang studying the stone? Du Shaoqing was puzzled. Stupid. Du Xiaoyao glanced at Du Shaoqing with unfathomable eyes and revealed an evil smile. I'm afraid you'll have another sister-in-law. At noon, people from the ancient heaven sect came to the Du family. Sima Taxing Star and Elder Gu Qingyang came to ask about legalism and also to denounce Du Jinnan. This kid had never told them about the nirvana of a Grand Supreme. Du Xiaofu had no choice but to apologize and tell his senior brother that he had met Sima Muhan in the legalism. As for other things, he didn't say much, lest his master Gu Qingyang worry. Xiaofu, we should go back to the clan. I have a feeling that the space of the divine domain might open soon. Come back with me and spend some time in the secret realm to prepare for entering the space of the divine domain. I'll also feel more at ease in the clan. At dusk, the old lady said to Du Xiaofu. Okay. Du Xiaofu nodded. He also hoped to be prepared before entering the space of the divine domain. Kid, you have to be careful and pay attention to your safety. Du Zhenwu said to Du Xiaofu outside the gate of the Du family in the afterglow of the setting sun. Uncle, don't worry. I won't be in danger when I go to the golden-winged Peng clan. Du Xiaofu said. Be careful in the space of the divine domain. Du Zhenwu was nervous. He was worried about the space of the divine domain. He had also heard of the terrifying dangers there. Uncle, don't worry. I'm looking forward to it. No one will be able to do anything to me. When the time comes, I'll find more opportunities for our Du family's descendants. Du Xiaofu said with a smile. In the space of the divine domain, everyone's cultivation would be suppressed to the initial stage of the domain realm. Du Xiaofu wasn't afraid and was confident. However, he was still a little concerned about the dangers in the space of the divine domain. When the time came, he would definitely be more vigilant. Du Xiaofu wasn't too worried when he placed Qiuli in Stone City to guard the desolate nation. There was also the array in the desolate nation's imperial palace. Other than the 9 great clans, the desolate nation wasn't afraid of any other forces. With the deterrence of the golden-winged Peng clan and the ferocious attacks of Fu Yibai and Ouyang Shuang's master, even the legalism wouldn't dare to easily invade. Whoosh whoosh. In the end, Du Xiaofu and the old lady left. However, there were many people accompanying them this time. Du Xiaoyao, Du Shaoqing, Ouyang Shuang, Zhen Qingchun, Master Apothecary, Yi Wuming, Little Tiger Du, Blue Fantasy, Scarlet Rock, Tianwu Academy, the 7-Star Hall, and many of the younger generation of the Du family were present. However, after everyone was brought into the space of the ancient desolate nation, Du Xiaofu wanted to bring everyone into the golden-winged Peng clan to comprehend after receiving the old lady's permission. They might be able to obtain some benefits and make some preparations for entering the space of the divine domain. With the old lady's speed, Du Xiaofu soon arrived at the golden-winged Peng clan's residence. So this is the golden-winged Peng clan's residence. Zhen Qingchun, Master Apothecary, and the rest of the golden-winged Peng clan's residents exclaimed in surprise. In the entire world, there were only a few who were fortunate enough to enter the golden-winged Peng clan's residence. This was a supreme demonic beast clan, and they were fortunate enough to enter. You guys can walk around. Just be careful. Du Xiaofu instructed everyone. Understood. Zhen Qingchun, Master Apothecary, Yi Wuming, and the rest were very excited. There are so many spiritual herbs. Du Shaoqing looked ahead. The first thing she noticed was the spiritual herbs. Don't be greedy. Don't waste the spiritual herbs. Du Xiaofu couldn't help but warn Du Shaoqing and Du Xiaoyao. Nothing good would come out of these two fellows being together. He couldn't let them waste the clan's spiritual herbs. After a while, Du Xiaofu saw his foster father, Jialo Changtian. Our golden-winged Peng clan has declared war on legalism. We won't let this matter rest. Jialo Changtian already knew everything. On his golden robe, the golden-winged Peng clan's pattern was like a living creature, releasing pressure. His voice was majestic, and his eyes were cold. Thank you, foster father. But I'll deal with legalism on my own. Du Xiaofu said. Although the golden-winged great rocks had declared war on the school of legalism because of his status in the race, they were standing up for him, which made Du Xiaofu feel warm inside. I know what you're thinking. Jialo Changtian nodded and said, among your peers, you're not afraid of legalism. But those shameless people of legalism will send the older generation to deal with you. If you want to deal with them on your own, you'll have to improve your cultivation as soon as possible. The divine domain will be your opportunity. There are countless opportunities there. With your talent, you'll definitely have a chance. I'll work hard, Du Xiaofu said. It's said that the divine domain will open soon. There should still be some time. The clan has decided to let you, Kailing, and Ju Yu enter the space of the golden-winged Peng clan to comprehend for a period of time. Originally, we wanted to give you some treasures, but the divine domain will open soon. We'll give them to you after you come out. Jialo Changtian spoke. Although he was no longer young, the contours of his face were enough to tell that he must have been extraordinarily handsome when he was young. The aura exuding from his body was faintly discernible and ethereal, causing Du Xiaofu to secretly feel that he was at least more tyrannical than the third elder. Chapter 1583. It was rumored that the true rock space was left behind by the true rock. It was filled with mysteries and contained the supreme beast energy of the golden rock. It was related to the true rock. However, the true rock space was special and had limited energy. Every time someone entered, a portion of the space's energy would be consumed. Over the years, the Golden Rock clan had consumed countless resources, but they couldn't maintain it for long. Therefore, they could only choose a time to open it. Every time, only the strongest 1 or 2 members of the Golden Rock clan could enter to comprehend it. Screech. Inside the true rock space, the sky was filled with golden light. It was vast and boundless, and golden runes covered the space. The cries of the great rock could be heard. The cries of the great rock could shake one's primordial spirit, as if they contained the great Tao. When Du Xiaofu, Jialo Kailing, and Jialo Jueyu appeared, they heard the cries of the true rock in the space, and their blood boiled. This is the true rock space. Our ancestor true rock passed away and ascended here. If we can comprehend it, it will help us improve. Jialo Kailing's eyes were filled with golden light. This was left behind by her ancestor, and it was very beneficial to the younger generation. Du Xiaofu looked around. The golden runes were dazzling, and the entire space was filled with an ancient and domineering aura. Screech. In a daze in the vast space, there was a huge rock that covered half the sky. It spread its wings, emitting golden light, and moved freely in the sky. The golden runes fell like a rain of light, and they lingered around the 3 of them. It was as if they could baptize their bodies. This is the true rock profound, the supreme beast energy of our clan. It was comprehended by our ancestor. It is a great opportunity. Jialo Jueyu didn't say much. He sat down cross-legged not far away and began to comprehend. Comprehend it yourself. Jialo Kailing patted Du Xiaofu's shoulder. She flew out and found a place to comprehend it. Du Xiaofu found a place and sat down cross-legged to comprehend the mysterious runes on the talismans. Golden talisman markings flickered all over the sky. At this moment, as Du Xiaofu's mind was immersed in comprehending them, it seemed as if all living beings had gained intelligence, and they moved according to their will. There was a dazzling golden light fluctuation, and the golden light flowed while carrying a peerlessly overbearing ancient and fierce aura. The golden talisman markings transformed into the image of an enormous golden-winged rock, and its cries pierced through the clouds while its ferocious might spread out, causing one's heart to tremble with fear. So strong. Du Xiaofu was shocked. At this moment, the blood in his body began to boil as if it had been summoned. This was left behind by the ancestors of the golden-winged great rocks. It was extremely beneficial to the descendants of the golden-winged great rocks. Du Xiaofu cultivated the path of the golden-winged great Peng bird. His body had mutated and was not much different from a real golden-winged great Peng bird. At this moment, Du Xiaofu could clearly feel the benefits of this true Peng bird space for the golden-winged great Peng bird. The terrifying golden-winged great Peng bird's shadow circled around Du Xiaofu's body. It rose into the air and flapped its wings, releasing an oppressive aura. The dazzling golden light was like the sun, dazzling and resplendent. Du Xiaofu's eyes were filled with a dazzling golden light. The resplendent golden talisman markings transformed into countless mysterious runes that spread out in his eyes. At this moment, Du Xiaofu felt a little dizzy. Then, he felt as if he was in an ancient world that transcended time and space. There was a peerless great pong bird that was emitting golden light. It was as if it was above the heavens, turning into a golden vortex that suppressed all beasts and birds. The golden-winged great pong bird spread its wings and soared into the sky, capable of shooting down the stars. Golden light overflowed everywhere, as if countless golden lightning bolts were flashing. It looked down on the world, blotting out the sky and suppressing all life on the earth. This is the power of the great pong bird. It was left behind by the ancestor of the great pong bird. It has great benefits. Du Xiaofu was shocked. If he could comprehend something, he would gain great benefits. Then, Du Xiaofu immersed himself in comprehension. The golden talisman markings around him arranged themselves and evolved. Gradually, they seemed to merge with Du Xiaofu's body, growing and multiplying endlessly. His mind was immersed in comprehension, feeling the changes in the golden talisman markings, feeling the space left behind by the great pong bird. At this moment, Du Xiaofu felt as if he had traveled through time and space and was dancing with the terrifying great pong. He watched as the great pong bird soared 90,000 miles into the sky, suppressing all life on Earth. Chi 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 chi. The great pong bird's claws could tear apart the heavens. The great pong bird could shoot down the stars with a flap of its wings. Everything was incomparably domineering and shocking. Gee! In the space, the golden talisman markings changed and emitted a screeching sound from time to time, shaking the soul. Du Xiaofu was completely immersed in this domineering space, left behind by the great pong bird. He entered a state of comprehension and was completely immersed in it. At this moment, Du Xiaofu was exploring the supreme beast power of the great pong bird. He was exploring the many mysteries of the great pong bird. In terms of comprehension, Du Xiaofu had always been talented. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been able to comprehend the mysterious origin of the tyrannical fist Tao from the ancient stone tablet. In this vast space of the great pong bird, Du Xiaofu sat cross-legged with his eyes closed. Dense golden talisman markings began to appear on the surface of his body. He didn't know when it started, but the golden talisman markings turned into a phantom of the great pong bird behind him. At this moment, the golden talisman markings in the void seemed to be affected by something. They connected with the phantom of the great pong bird behind Du Xiaofu and Du Xiaofu's body. Even Du Xiaofu didn't expect this strange scene to occur. The spot on Du Xiaofu's back where the great pong bird's wings had been pulled out had already recovered. There wasn't even a trace left behind. However, at this moment, a golden light began to emit from Du Xiaofu's back. The spot where the great pong bird's wings had been pulled out was filled with blood essence and boiling. His bones were suffused with radiance. It was as if something was growing and germinating. Time slowly passed. Zhen Qingchun, the master apothecary, the Du family's disciples, the Seven-Star Hall's disciples, and the Tianwu Academy's disciples all entered the secret area of the great pong bird's territory to attempt to comprehend the supreme beast power. As time passed, the world was silent. There was an inexplicable aura that suppressed the entire world. Boom! On a certain day, a thunderous roar resounded from the 9 heavens. It resounded throughout the beast region, the 4 seas, the demon region, and Kyushu. The thunderous roar lasted for a long time. It was as if it was accompanied by the great Tao. It could be heard clearly by the billions of living beings in the world, shaking their souls. Somewhere in the world, the spiritual energy of heaven and earth was abundant. An ancient aura pervaded the air. Is it finally opening? This should be the last time. In an ancient cave, a young man in green clothes walked out. He had a peerless demeanor and a pair of vast eyes. As he walked out, the cave's rocks and flowers bloomed. It was full of vitality and lush greenery. In the boundless world, a vast river spanned across. The river water was strange. It was like ink and filled with an aura of the underworld. It seemed to overflow from the underworld. Just the aura that emanated from this terrifying and strange river was enough to make one's soul tremble and tremble. Swish! Suddenly, the vast river water rippled with strange black runes. A black-clothed young man walked out of the divine river. His eyes were looking at the sky as if they contained the underworld. It was enough to make one's hair stand on end and their souls scatter. After waiting for so long, it's finally opening. As soon as the black-clothed young man finished speaking, he stepped out of the space and disappeared in an instant. The vast glacier was majestic and magnificent. It merged with the world and stretched as far as the eye could see. In the depths of the glacier, the cold energy was so cold that it could freeze one's soul. High up in the sky, clouds and mist lingered. There was a 1,000-meter-tall icy waterfall. Towering icebergs towered into the clouds. This glacier was shocking. Rumble. Suddenly, the entire glacier trembled. A huge avalanche swept through the world and submerged everything. In the vast icebergs, a huge palace appeared. It was as if it had been buried under the glacier for countless years and had awakened at this moment. The strange palace was ancient. It was completely cast from ice and filled with runes. It was sparkling and translucent, as if it was the purest existence in the world. Below the huge ice palace, there were ice stairs and beautiful arches. Ice ravines crisscrossed the landscape. It was breathtakingly beautiful. A white-clothed young man walked out. He was too beautiful. He was like ice and snow. His skin was like jade. His eyes were black and white. His gaze was clear and extraordinary. Behind the white-clothed young man, there were 8 white-clothed women. They all looked to be around 25 or 26 years old. Each one of them was incomparably beautiful and graceful. The space of the divine domain. I have waited for many years. The white-clothed young man looked at the sky. His clear eyes were fluctuating with light. In the endless hot lava, a young man in fiery armor walked out. His eyes were like 2 volcanoes that could burn and destroy everything. The space of the divine domain is about to open. I have waited for this day for a long time. When the time comes, how many of you will still remember me? Fire cloud evil god Dugufenshin? Thunder resounded through the 9 heavens, shaking all living beings in the world. At this moment, countless living beings were alarmed. Countless geniuses hidden in the world were activated. Even supreme beings were born. They were all waiting for that day, the day when the space of the divine domain would open for the last time. They had prepared for a long time for this day and had waited for many years. Chapter 1584. When the sound of thunder resounded, there was a vast and boundless plain somewhere in the world. It was as vast as the Milky Way, as if it had reached the end of the world. On the vast and boundless plains, there was a faint and cold silence. From afar, there was a huge circle on the plain. The center of the circle was divided into 2, forming a faintly discernible diagram of yin and yang. This was a pure land that didn't belong to the mortal world. No living creature could set foot in it. A huge ancient palace appeared in the air. It floated in the air like a miracle. It's the last time. A sigh came from within the palace. Outside the ancient palace, a middle-aged man stood with his hands behind his back. He wore a plain robe, but it couldn't conceal his ethereal temperament. The middle-aged man seemed to be the ruler of this world. His eyes silently looked down at the vast plains below as he murmured, "I wonder if this world will be completely reduced to a demonic domain in the last time it opens, or if it will transcend." The sound of thunder resounded. All of Kyushu, the demon realm, the beast region, the 4 seas, and Wudong Mountain shook. A few days later, the second thunderclap resounded, reverberating through the 9 heavens. Then, in half a month, the 7th thunderclap resounded. Mountain peaks stretched into the clouds. They were verdant and covered in exquisite carvings of ancient buildings. Clouds curled around the mountain peaks. In an exquisite courtyard, a beautiful figure stood in a room. She wore a green dress and had a lithe figure. Her ink-black hair fell to her perky buttocks. Her exquisite face seemed otherworldly. There was an old man in front of the beautiful figure. He was clearly under a restriction. He looked at the beautiful woman with shock in his eyes. Xiaojing, I'm your elder. What do you want? This old man was none other than the Han family elder who had been passing messages to Du Xiaofu about legalism. In the end, he tricked Du Xiaofu into going to the main hall to suppress him. You are hiding something from me. I can feel it. Since you don't want to tell me about the bed, I can only find out myself. Granduncle, Xiaojing has offended you. The woman spoke. She was Du Xiaojing, and her eyes shone with a moving light. After that, a rune appeared between her brows and a palm imprint condensed. In the end, it transformed into a palm imprint that gently pressed against the old man's forehead. Ah, a moment later, under the shock in his eyes, the old man let out a scream. His face twitched, but his voice couldn't travel out of the courtyard because it was blocked by the seal. A moment later, Du Xiaojing lowered her hand from the old man's forehead. Her eyes were red and her delicate body trembled. Haha, Du Xiaojing smiled. Tears flowed from her beautiful face as she clenched her fists. Her fingertips dug into her palms and blood flowed out. While searching with her primordial spirit, she learned everything. Her older brother came to the clan, but in the end, his wings were pulled out and his blood was drawn out. Her mother shed tears of blood. No wonder she was in seclusion and felt uneasy. Her heart was broken because of this. Xiaojing, the clan is doing this for your own good. You are a natural-born supreme, a natural-born holy sovereign. You can become the most powerful existence in this world. His existence will only affect you. The clan has done everything to nurture you and treated you well. Even if we let that brat down, everything is for your own good, the old man spoke. His face was pale. He was not Du Xiaojing's opponent at all. After being imprisoned and having his primordial spirit searched, he knew that he could no longer hide anything. But he is my older brother. He is my closest relative. Du Xiaojing smiled. Her heart ached as she stared at the old man. Xiaojing, the divine domain is about to open. You are the hope of legalism. Your mother is still in the clan. You have to think clearly. You have been in the legalism all these years. Everyone treats you as a member of the legalism. In the future, the legalism will also be yours. Looking at Du Xiaojing's smile, the old man felt a little scared for no reason. He had never seen her smile so terrifyingly. It was as if he had never expected that Du Xiaojing would suddenly attack him today and imprison him with lightning speed. Du Xiaojing was in a daze and tears flowed. Breaking my bones and digging out my heart, pulling out my wings and drawing out my blood, imprisoning me and my daughter. The school of legalism really does feel sorry for me and my family. Do you really think I've had a good temper all these years? A while later, Du Xiaojing stared at the old man coldly. Xiaojing, don't do anything wrong. Your withering heart disease was treated by the school of legalism at a great cost. Your current achievements were nurtured by the school of legalism with countless resources. Your mother is still in the school of legalism. One wrong step and you will lose everything, the old man said with a hint of warning. His eyes flickered, and the gaze in his beautiful eyes made him shiver. You are right. My mother is still in the legalism. I am the hope of legalism. Don't worry, I will let you have your way. Du Xiaojing spoke. The coldness in his eyes disappeared, and a smile appeared on his face. His smile was so beautiful that it could topple cities. Boom! The eighth thunderous sound came from the 9 heavens, reverberating in the void. Bang! Between heaven and earth, a volcano erupted, causing a violent explosion. At the same time, a large amount of molten gas was spewed out. Rumble! Rolling volcanic ash rushed into the clouds, and the surging hot lava poured down on heaven and earth, destroying everything. A middle-aged man walked out of the magma that filled the sky. The rolling magma around him automatically parted, as though a sovereign of fire had descended upon this world on a wave of fire. The day of the opening of the divine domain is finally here. The man spoke, gazing into the sky. His eyes were flowing with light, as if they were flowing with lava. It was enough to make people tremble in fear. Second uncle. A young man walked over. He was Zhang Wanzheng, who was defeated by Du Xiaofu in the legalism. He looked at the man in the sky and said, Han Aodong's son has appeared. He has returned to the legalism. Han Aodong, Du Tingxian. Hearing this, the man's eyes rippled, like the ripples of a magma flow. In the space of the true rock, Du Xiaofu's body merged with the golden-winged rock's shadow behind him. In the eyes of the terrifying golden-winged rock's shadow, two bolts of golden lightning shot out. At this moment, Du Xiaofu was completely immersed in the comprehension of the true rock's beast ability. He was exploring the supreme beast ability of the golden-winged rock and the many mysteries of the true rock. His eyes were closed, and dense golden runes began to seep out of his body. These golden runes were connected to the space of the true rock and merged with each other, releasing a golden light. In the end, they merged with the golden runes in Du Xiaofu's body. Boom! At this moment, the entire space of the true rock shook violently, as if something terrible had happened. Walala! On Du Xiaofu's back, where the broken wing was, the blood became hotter and hotter, and the golden light became more and more dazzling. His bones were burning and itching, as if something had sprouted and was about to be reborn. Gee, the golden-winged rock's shadow that Du Xiaofu had merged with was like the sound of wind and thunder. It flapped its wings in this vast void, as if it was soaring into the sky. It could suppress the ancient times and suppress all living things. This guy has actually comprehended to this extent. Not far away, Jialo Jueyu and Jialo Kaling were wrapped in a golden light. At this moment, they were awakened. Under that terrifying might, Jialo Jueyu and Jialo Kaling could only retreat. They looked at each other and sucked in a breath of cold air. They could see that the guy's comprehension was already above theirs. It was as if that guy was the true rock, and they were not. He has already reached the realm of the true rock. He has benefited a lot from this. Jialo Kaling sighed. Her beautiful face was filled with shock. In the space of the divine domain, everything depends on one's physical body and comprehension. The power of treasures will also be suppressed. The greater his comprehension progress, the stronger the effect will be in the space of the divine domain. At that time, he will be even more invincible. Jialo Jueyu had a slight smile on his face as he said, "The physical body and supreme beast abilities of the golden-winged great rocks will be fully displayed in the divine territory. It will be enough to make the trembling millet submit to us." In the space of the divine domain, don't be polite if you see people who believe in legalism. Kill them all. Jialo Kaling's beautiful eyes were filled with killing intent. Huff! When everything finally converged and the golden light faded, Du Xiaofu stretched his body. His joints crackled, and a mouthful of turbid air gushed out from his throat. His whole body was filled with an indescribable carefree feeling. Du Xiaofu looked inside himself and found that the bones on his back were changing. There was blood essence condensing and not dissipating, as if it was nurturing something mysterious. It was extremely mysterious, but it had yet to be revealed. We should go out. The clan has already informed us that the space of the divine domain is about to open. Jialo Kaling stepped forward and said to Du Xiaofu, "The space of the divine domain. I have been waiting for it for a long time." Du Xiaofu stood up. His resolute face was clear, and his eyes were shining with golden light. It was intimidating. Chapter 1585. The divine domain will open in a day or two. The clan has received news that many hidden geniuses have come out. The 9 great clans also have hidden experts coming out of seclusion. Some of the great clans of the demon world and the beast realm have also sent out their outstanding juniors. There's no lack of supreme geniuses. They're all formidable opponents. Be careful, Jialo Changtian said to Jialo Kaling, Du Xiaofu, and Jialo Jueyu in a magnificent hall. I'm looking forward to the battle. Jialo Jueyu's eyes shone with golden light. He was completely fearless, waiting for the battle to start. Du Xiaofu raised his eyebrows. It wasn't strange for the 9 great clans to have hidden experts of the younger generation. Just like in the legalism, his sister Xiaojing didn't appear back then. Presumably, the situation within the great clans was similar. The strongest juniors were all hiding in order to shock everyone in the divine domain and obtain more opportunities. With the arrival of the Great Tribulation, there's bound to be monstrous geniuses. When the divine domain opens for the last time, many ancient powers have been waiting for this day. They've been planning for this for a long time. When the time comes, there will definitely be supreme geniuses and supreme geniuses. It'll definitely be a fierce battle. With your strength, you should be among the top, but you still have to be careful. In this world, apart from the 9 great clans, the dragons, and the phoenixes, there are also many hidden ancient powers. They're all related to the Great Tribulation. In addition, it's rumored that the divine domain is filled with countless dangers. Although you have life-saving talismans, if you lose that opportunity, it'll be a great loss. If you force your way in, you'll face true danger. Jialo Changtian reminded the 3 of them, telling them not to be careless. The divine domain would be the stage of the younger generation. Only the last one would have the chance to obtain the greatest opportunity. Then, the 3 of them left the hall and returned to their own courtyard. Du Xiaofu didn't see Du Xiaoyao, Little Tiger, Du Xiaoqing, and the others. He guessed that they were cultivating in the golden-winged Peng clan. In the depths of the Tianhuang continent, after the battle for the Jinlei Tinsei cave was over, the place returned to silence. Chilala, that night, the stars were bright and the moon was dim. Lightning radiance rushed out, radiance rushed into the heavens, illuminating the void and illuminating the night sky. Immediately after, an earth-shattering explosion rang out in the void. Rumble. The earth quaked and the mountains shook as if a peerless beast was awakening. Countless dazzling electric arcs rushed out from the depths of the earth. In a short period of time, the night sky was filled with lightning and thunder. Endless lightning rushed out as if doomsday had arrived. Then, in the depths of the earth, spatial ripples rippled out. The ground cracked and fissured, revealing a ravine. Endless light shone, and waves of thunder rumbled. The aura seemed to have returned to the ancient times. Within the endless lightning radiance in the void, an enormous gate appeared. An ancient building occupied this place, rippling with lightning radiance. Mysterious symbols flickered as if it came from the ancient times, crossing through time and space to arrive. A middle-aged man walked out. His long hair fluttered in the wind, and his long robes fluttered in the wind. His entire body was wrapped in lightning, as if he had walked out from the ancient times. It was extremely shocking, as if an ancient god had descended. Whoosh whoosh. Behind the middle-aged man was an old man, and behind him were 8 figures. They flew out from Master Pang's school. New Master, the space of the divine plane is about to open. The old man bowed and stood quietly behind the middle-aged man. Old Lei, I have to go back first to see my son and my family. The middle-aged man spoke. His hair fluttered slightly, and his resolute face, long eyebrows slanted to his temples, and thick long eyelashes softened the originally firm and powerful outline of his face. He was handsome and heroic. Whoosh whoosh, one by one, the figures disappeared on the spot, breaking through the void and tearing the space apart. Every one of them had the cultivation and strength of a top expert in the world. Boom! A moment later, the aura in the ancient space was shocking. Waves of terrifying aura fluctuations rushed out, shaking the space. Roar, dragon roars and tiger roars could be heard, and the runes were dazzling, shining brightly. Many figures appeared in front of Du Xiaofu. They were Yi Piaoling, Qingguyu, Du Yunlong, Du Xiaoman, General, Gu Xinyan, Gu Che, Silver-winged demonic eagle, Gu Qin demon, Dongli Diao, Lin Weiqi, and the others. There were more than 20 people in total, and they had fused with treasures. Yi Piaoling's body was covered with a coiling dragon war god armor, and the dragon roared continuously. Buzz, buzz. The sound of wind and thunder could be heard in front of Qingguyu, causing the void to tremble. A dazzling war spear appeared in his hand, and it was incomparably majestic, flowing with multicolored light. This was the barbarian war spear, and it had been refined by Qingguyu. Roar! The dragon roared and the bird cried, and the sound shook the void. A dazzling whip wrapped around the shadow of a dragon and a phoenix covered the sky, wrapping around Du Xiaoman's body. Its power was terrifying. This was the dragon shadow and phoenix whip, and it had been refined by Du Xiaoman. Roar! Du Yunlong's cloud robe fluttered in the wind, and the image of a dragon circled around his body. This was the heavenly dragon cover, which Du Yunlong had refined to protect himself. Boom! The void trembled as a palm-sized mountain appeared in the general's hand. It exuded a majestic aura and was surrounded by multicolored light. It was capable of suppressing and crushing everything in its path. This was the Taihang Mountains, which had been refined by the general. His aura was so strong that it could suppress the mountains and rivers, and even suppress everything around it. Rumble! The entire desolate ancient space began to boil. Everyone activated their great treasures. Their might was awe-inspiring. Symbols rushed into the heavens, and the power that filled the air made one's heart palpitate. It had already been a long time since they had entered the desolate ancient space. Everyone had refined the precious treasures, and their cultivation base had also improved a lot. These people were already very strong. Many of them could even compete with their peers from the 8 great families. Now that they had such precious treasures with them, they wouldn't be at a disadvantage in the divine domain. For example, Yi Piaoling and Qian Guyu, second brother Du Yunlong, Dongli Diao, and the general. Du Xiaofu was not worried at all. These people had been refined by the divine thunder body, and their martial veins had been strengthened by the saint body art. Once they entered the divine domain, they would be able to protect themselves. As for the Ghost Chariot, Phantom Tiger King, Silver-Winged Demonic Condor, and the others, Du Xiaofu was even less worried. Du Xiaofu looked at everyone with a smile on his face. Rumble. A moment later, inside the purple lightning profound cauldron, the sky was filled with raging lightning. Thick bolts of purple lightning gathered into a thunderbolt and continuously fell from the void. It was domineering and destructive, capable of destroying everything. Screech! In the thunderbolt, a rock screeched and golden light shone. A mighty and domineering aura swept out, and a terrifying aura swept out. A small figure appeared in the thunderbolt, bathed in the purple lightning. A pair of golden rock wings spread out behind his back, and golden feathers stacked on top of each other. His appearance was fierce and domineering. Mysterious runes wrapped around him, and golden light shone in all directions. It was as if there was a golden-winged rock shadow flapping its wings, soaring up into the sky with great power. Come. The small figure appeared to be only 6 or 7 years old, perhaps not yet. Snot was still hanging from its nose, but it soared into the sky in the face of the rolling lightning. It flapped its wings and soared through the lightning, as if it was bathing in a sea of lightning. Its entire body was wrapped in purple lightning talismans and mysterious runes, and it was actually devouring the purple-gold lightning energy. At this moment, if someone saw a baby being so domineering and brave, what would they think? Du Xiaofu appeared near the thunderbolt, looking at the scene in front of him with a smile. In the ancient space, on a mountain peak, a 7 or 8-year-old little girl had a pair of eyes that were very different from those of her age. There was a demonic look in her eyes. Dad, Mom, when the space of the divine plane opens, you should be going too, right? A tender voice rang out. The little girl's red dress was surrounded by patterns of stars. On her chubby face, there was a faint golden light in the depths of her bewitching eyes. She exuded a domineering aura. Her blue-black hair was tied into a ponytail behind her small head. There was a vertical rune mark at the center of her brows, making her look noble and demonic. In the ancient space, the aura was blazing hot, and the energy of heaven and earth was abundant. A graceful figure stood on a towering tree. Her body was languid, and she was beautiful. However, her aura made the surrounding void freeze. She murmured softly, "The space of the divine plane. Little Xingxing should be entering. And that guy seems to be in a lot of trouble recently. Too crazy. This little guy is really domineering. He's not just domineering, he's defying the heavens. This abnormal kid. I'm afraid that when the temple master was his age, he would not be so terrifying." I guess so. When the temple master was his age, he was definitely not so abnormal. Chapter 1586. Discussions broke out all around. Their eyes were filled with shock, and all of them sucked in a breath of cold air. Rumble. At this moment, on the plaza, there was a baby with golden pung wings spread out from his back. Golden light shone resplendently and wrapped in arcs of electricity as he fought a great battle against a pure-blooded golden-winged Peng youth. The milk baby seemed to be hooting, but he was like an overlord. He hugged the young golden-winged rock and threw him into the square, causing the ground to shake and the mountains to shake. People couldn't help but be shocked. Although the strength of the milk baby was not at a terrifying level, the visual impact was unparalleled. How did this kid cultivate? Jalo Jueo, Jalo Juekong, Jalo Kaling, and the others were also at the side. Their expressions were bitter. Seeing the pure-blooded young of the golden-winged Great Peng race being ravaged like this, their mood was not much better. However, all the disciples of the golden-winged rock clan were only shocked. The whole clan knew that the baby was the disciple of Jalo Jueu and the nephew of the young clan leader. There was no difference between him and the disciples of the golden-winged rock clan. After all, they were all part of the same family. This baby is not bad. Jalo Kaling looked at Jalo Jueu in shock. She was shocked for Du Xiaoba. Of course he is my disciple. Jalo Jueu was not polite at all. It was as if everything was natural. This was his disciple, so he should be invincible. The stone city was vast and majestic. The imperial palace was majestic and imposing. These were all built by Xiaofu. In these years, he led our Du clan to rise and protected the stone city. He was not killed by legalism. His heart was dug out and his wings were pulled out. He became a king when he was young and established a country. He is now the young clan leader of the Golden-Winged Rock Clan, the headmaster of the Hahuan School, the young lord of the Seven-Star Hall, and the Heavenly Beast Hall of the World Society. Above the imperial palace, the imperial chi fluctuated in golden. Du Junwu looked at the handsome middle-aged man beside him and said, "Third brother, you have a good son?" "Of course my son isn't bad. I've always known that he has my genes." The middle-aged man opened his mouth. His body was as straight as a spear, straight and sharp. When his calm voice sounded, his eyes gradually sharpened. Lightning began to fluctuate as he said, "Legalism should not have repeatedly touched my son. Legalism is powerful, and its experts are as numerous as the clouds. But I believe that it won't be long before Xiaofu can lead our Du family and the desolate country to confront legalism." Du Junwu said, "Legalism is strong, but I'm not the same as before. My son was bullied and I didn't stand up for him. If word got out, I would lose face." The middle-aged man said as lightning flashed in his sharp black eyes. Boom! Suddenly, thunder rumbled in the sky, shaking the 9 heavens. "It's the 9th one. Is the legendary divine domain about to open?" Du Junwu gazed into the sky. He was no longer the same as before, knowing many things. He was no longer the lord of a small clan. Rumble. When Du Junwu's voice fell, heaven and earth rumbled. Vast winds and thunder rumbled in the 9 heavens. An aura spread out, as if crossing through time and space, turning the universe upside down. At that moment, millions of creatures in the world were alarmed and looked up at the sky. The divine domain is finally opening. At that moment, above Kyushu, in the Yao realm, the Beast region, the Four Seas, Wudong Mountain, and other places, old figures appeared in the void. They looked up at the 9 heavens, their eyes shining with excitement. Today was the last day the divine domain would open. Thunder rumbled 9 times. This was the 9th time the divine domain would open. Today was a big day for all living things. Rumble. Above the firmament of the 9 heavens, there was a burst of light, like a blooming lotus. From high up in the sky, there was light from the 9 heavens that poured down. The light seemed to extend from the depths of the heavens. A rain of light poured down, covering the sky. It was dazzling, dreamlike, and dazzling. This scene was too shocking. A total of 33 brilliant paths stretched out from the heavens, filling the world with an ancient aura. It was like the beginning of the primordial chaos. It was misty. Deep within the light, the many old figures in the world narrowed their eyes. Their hearts were filled with reverence. Some people sincerely prostrated themselves in worship. The divine domain has opened. There are a total of 33 entrances. Kyushu's 3 continents and 1 realm. There are a total of 14 entrances. The 9 clans each have 1. The Four Seas and Wudong Mountain each have one. There are 5 main paths. There are also 8 auxiliary paths that lead to the lost continents of the world. They are there to receive the geniuses of the world and participate in this grand occasion. Within the golden-winged great rocks, the old woman looked up at the sky. A brilliant path descended, as if it had descended upon the golden-winged great rocks. In reality, it was quite far away. The entire beast region could see it. The old woman continued, "That is the entrance path. It is also a path of examination. Those who are not qualified to enter the divine domain cannot enter. They will be ostracized. If they try to force their way in, they will be killed. There are opportunities and dangers inside. Go. I hope you return victorious and strengthen the golden-winged great rocks." Rumble. In an instant, figures soared into the sky from within the golden-winged great rocks. They left the clan to enter the divine domain. A figure silently appeared in the sky. He looked to be 25 or 26 years old. He wore a purple battle robe. Although there were some patches, it was clean. His long black hair draped over his shoulders. His face was resolute and handsome. "Grandmother, godfather, I'm going." His clear eyes glowed with a faint golden light. He turned to the old woman and Jialo Changtian. Then he soared into the sky. In Shang province, a brilliant path descended. It was a path of guidance. It descended from the depths of the heavens. It was astonishingly brilliant and stretched across time and space. "Let's go." Above Shang province, countless figures soared into the sky from the many ancient mountain gates. They rushed into the brilliant path filled with light rain. They wanted to enter the divine domain and explore the unknown areas to obtain the legendary opportunities. However, in just an instant, countless people were swept away and fell from the sky. They roared, unwilling to give up. However, they were not qualified to enter. Not everyone could enter the divine domain. The divine domain rejected mediocre people. "I'm not mediocre. I must enter," someone shouted. He was unwilling to give up. His eyes were red as he forced his way in again. Bang, bang, bang. In an instant, no matter if they were strong or weak, all the living beings that intended to forcefully step foot onto the grand Tao of Radiance exploded apart and transformed into a bloody mist. Not a single one of them was able to escape calamity. Be careful. That's a path of examination. If you're not qualified, you can't enter. Countless people had died, which shocked many people and also made them more vigilant. Sigh. Below, an old man sighed. Seeing that his descendants and disciples couldn't enter the divine domain and obtain any opportunities, he sighed and felt disappointed. That's Mu Jianxin, the peak of the younger generation in Shang province. He succeeded and can enter the divine domain. Gongsun Mingjian also went up. He's already in the domain realm. He's going to search for opportunities. Sumushin from Hahuan School also went up. Countless exclamations resounded in Shang province. Countless people were swept down from the brilliant path. They couldn't step into the divine domain. However, there were also many people, young and old, who began to walk on the brilliant path. They wanted to enter the divine domain. There were also people who couldn't take it anymore and were swept down from the sky. They were even more unwilling and sullen. In the sky, 33 brilliant paths scattered in all directions. It was like a dream, dazzling and shocking. 9 great paths of light descended from the 9 continents. One for each continent, they descended from the depths of the firmament. Thunder Province, Wan Province, Han Province, Yu Province, Lan Province, Cloud Province, and Ning Province all had brilliant paths sprinkled down. Countless figures flew up, all of them striving to enter the divine domain. Countless old figures floated in the sky, watching all of this and looking around. At this special time, they were escorting the disciples of the mountain sections. They didn't want to be suddenly attacked and lose the qualifications to seize the great opportunities. In such a grand occasion, if any mountain sects lost the opportunity, it would affect their fortune for thousands of years. They might not be able to recover from this setback. "Child, go." In the Great Luan sect, the old woman spoke. The fairy-like woman was dressed in a tight suit. She stood tall and alone, quietly standing in the air. She also gave people a feeling of supreme vitality, transcending this world. The woman looked in the direction of the desolate country and then nodded. Her beautiful figure flew through the sky, striving to cross the brilliant path. Swoosh, swoosh, behind the woman, many figures followed. Their auras erupted, shaking the mountains and rivers. Above the ancient heaven sect, the towering peaks were surrounded by clouds. In the distance, thousands of mountains rose and fell, magnificent and boundless. This kind of opportunity, we should fight for it. On the mountain peak, a thin but sturdy middle-aged man with green clothes and black hair fluttered in the wind. His tall and straight figure was dignified with a hint of elegance. As his voice fell, his figure flew through the sky. Follow the sect master. Xialing, Shui Ruhan, Si Ruofeng, In Machin, and the others stepped into the air and followed closely. In the desolate country's stone city, a brilliant path descended, sprinkling a rain of light. It was like a divine rainbow traversing the void. Its aura was vast, shocking countless people. Swoosh, swoosh, many figures flew out of the stone city. There were old and young people. There were people from the Du family, the desolate country, the Yi family, the Bai family, and the other great families. They weren't the main force of the desolate country, but they also wanted to try to enter the divine domain and fight for it. Rumble. Suddenly, at this moment, from the void above, the wind and clouds surged. Dark clouds gathered, and there were two huge handprints on the left and right, reaching out from the rolling dark clouds. Two terrifying handprints reached out from the depths of the void, as if they were going to cover the entire stone city. They brought with them a destructive force, wanting to destroy everyone who fought for it and cut off the desolate country's opportunity. This was a sneak attack by a terrifying expert. He must have a deep hatred for the desolate country and wanted to cut off the desolate country's thousands of years of fortune. Chapter 1587. At the same time, a terrifying aura suddenly erupted from the middle-aged man's body, causing the sky to change color. Killing intent shot out from his eyes. He was Du Tingxian, the third son of the Du family, Du Xiaofu's father, and Han Aodong's man. But at this moment, Du Tingxuan's eyes were deep and filled with killing intent, but he was not angry. His emotions were the same as before, like a rock. Du Tingxian stood in the air, facing the two terrifying hand seals descending. He did not move at all. He only said indifferently, "Kill." Swoosh, swoosh. Du Tingxian did not make a move, and Qiuli, who was guarding the desolate country, did not have time to make a move either. Someone had already made a move. 8 strange figures rushed out from the Du family, like 8 bolts of lightning shooting into the sky. Rumble. The 8 figures made a move, and it was as if lightning was destroying the world. Lightning illuminated the void, and with an unstoppable force, they destroyed the 2 world-destroying hand seals. Ah! 2 screams immediately came from the depths of the void. The 8 figures did not stop. They rushed into the depths of the void and chased, stirring up the wind and clouds. Bang! 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 The depths of the void trembled as if there was a heavenly thunder exploding. It shook the clouds in all directions, as if it was going to tear the space apart. Wind and thunder continued, and lightning raged. Ah! Not long after, 2 screams came from the depths of the void amidst the destructive lightning. The runes shone brightly, as if they were going to break the path of light. Many people in the entire central continent had personally witnessed the bodies of 2 old men transform into bloody mist in the depths of space right beneath the path of light. They were each besieged by 4 mysterious experts, and they were crushed to death with a speed and might that was like a bolt of lightning. It's an ancestor from the Sky Snake sect and Spirit Sky Valley. They seem to be attacking the desolate country, and they were killed. Someone in the central state exclaimed, and they were dumbfounded. The 2 ancestor-level experts from the Sky Snake sect and Spirit Sky Valley were killed just like that. Their souls were destroyed, and they were killed. It's the Sky Snake sect and Spirit Sky Valley. Qiuli stepped into the sky above the imperial palace and gazed into the depths of the void. He felt a familiar aura. The ones who ambushed the barren country were the 2 great ancestors of the Sky Snake sect and the Spirit Sky Valley. Spirit Sky Valley and Sky Snake Sect? Huh? Du Tingxian raised his head slightly. Lightning flashed in his eyes, as if he had merged with the space around him. Then, his figure disappeared from the sky above the desolate country. Boom! A moment later, a thunderous handprint fell from the sky above the heavenly snake sect. It was as if heavenly thunder had exploded, shaking half of the central state. It caused the ground to crack and the mountains and rivers to tremble. In midair, countless people screamed and wailed as they were instantly destroyed into nothingness. Inside the heavenly snake sect, many disciples who had ascended the bright light passageway were directly thrown off. There were even more casualties below. Back then, you dared to touch my son. Now, you dare to touch my desolate country. I will exterminate your entire sect. Du Tingxian appeared within the Sky Snake sect. His entire body was wrapped in lightning, and his hair danced in the wind. It was as if streaks of dazzling lightning were wreaking havoc, causing others to revere him. Rumble. 8 mysterious figures appeared within the Sky Snake sect. Their figures shuttled through the Sky Snake sect like 8 terrifying balls of lightning exploding. Activate the formation and defend. Inside the Sky Snake sect, some people panicked and some shouted. Several old figures rushed into the sky, wanting to defend themselves. Kill. However, wherever the 8 figures passed, everything was destroyed. Dazzling lightning exploded like a sudden clap of thunder, shaking the central state. It was as if heavenly thunder had descended. Wherever the 8 figures passed, the talisman formations within the Sky Snake sect could not withstand a single blow. Those old figures were directly shattered, dying tragically in shock and fear. Perhaps even at this moment, they could not understand what kind of existence they had provoked to suffer such bloody revenge. Screams and wails filled the air as blood flowed like a river. Everything was turned into ashes, and countless charred corpses and bones piled up for thousands of miles. At this moment, it was as if the Sky Snake sect had attracted a great calamity, and it was difficult for them to escape. The sky was filled with dazzling lightning that was enough to destroy everything. It was dazzling and destructive, dazzling and frightening. In less than an hour, the Sky Snake sect, one of the 9 major forces of the central state, was razed to the ground, and the sect was exterminated. Du Tingxian did not make a move, and neither did Elder Lei behind him. Only the 8 mysterious figures made a move, destroying everything. Those who offend my desolate country shall be destroyed. Du Tingxuan's figure appeared above the Spirit Heaven Valley once again. Lightning exploded as he waved his sleeves, killing many disciples who were fighting in the sky. Boom! At the same time, many powerful experts within the Spirit Heaven Valley also made a move. Their figures pierced through the void, and a terrifying aura erupted as they rushed into the sky. Kill. 8 mysterious figures descended, and lightning exploded. Electric arcs blazed as they made a move at the first moment, blocking those powerful experts. They engaged in a great battle, and their killing intent soared into the sky, shaking the entire central state. Such a fierce battle was terrifying, and the void collapsed. It was abnormally terrifying. My life is over, however, not long after. The experts within the Spirit Heaven Valley did not even have a chance to escape. They were killed on the spot, and their blood splattered across the void. The entire Spirit Heaven Valley was then enveloped by endless lightning. Killing intent soared into the sky, destroying everything. In a short period of time, someone had crossed the void, massacred the Sky Snake sect, and exterminated the colossal Spirit Heaven Valley. The Spirit Heaven Valley and the Sky Snake sect had just launched a sneak attack on the desolate country, wanting to cut off the desolate country's thousands of years of fortune, but they were exterminated instead. Countless gazes in the central state trembled. Many old figures in the void witnessed it with their own eyes, and they gasped. I'm Du Xiaofu's father, and I'm Du Tingxian. Du Tingxian was in the sky, and his eyes were filled with lightning. His voice was accompanied by thunder, and it spread throughout the central state. Du Tingxian. So it's him. Back in the Tianhuang mainland, it was rumored that he had obtained a treasure related to the Jinlei Tensei. So Du Tingxian is Du Xiaofu's father. He appeared and exterminated the Sky Snake sect and the Spirit Heaven Valley, massacring the Sky Snake sect, exterminating the Spirit Heaven Valley, and killing millions of lives. He's even more brutal than the Demon King Du Xiaofu. No wonder the Demon King Du Xiaofu is so brutal. It turns out that he has an even more brutal father. It's hereditary. Countless gazes in the central state looked at the middle-aged man from afar, and their hearts palpitated. A man who could exterminate the Sky Snake sect and the Spirit Heaven Valley in the blink of an eye. How powerful and terrifying was that? In the air, Du Tingshuan's body was filled with lightning. He looked at the resplendent path in the sky, and lightning crisscrossed on his body. He was very powerful and terrifying. New master, be careful when you enter the divine domain. The old man behind Du Tingxian said. Behind him, 8 figures stood straight, and their eyes rippled with lightning. Before entering, I still have a place to go. I'll leave the outside to Elder Lei, Du Tingxian said as he looked into the distance. That was the direction he used to gaze in the past. After that, Du Tingxian stepped through the void and disappeared. However, he left behind countless legends in the Central Plains. Du Tingxian was originally a nobody, and not many people knew about him. But today, with the extermination of the Sky Snake sect and the Spirit Heaven Valley, Kyushu was shaken. The world was in turmoil, and countless creatures were fighting for it. Children, go. Between heaven and earth, there were many old figures standing in the void at this moment. Their expressions were solemn as they watched the younger generation and the disciples of their clans enter the space of the divine domain. Whoosh whoosh, in the yin-yang school, yin and yang qi alternated, and starlight rippled. Qi Yeshi, Qi Jiajun, and the others flew into the sky, leading thousands of disciples and followers of the yin-yang school. They stepped onto splendid light avenue without any obstruction. She bathed in divine light, like an immortal descending into the world. She was destined to shine brightly. Amitabha, in the Buddhist school, Sanskrit chants resounded, and Buddha figures appeared in the sky. A young man shrouded the Buddha figure, and behind him followed Heng Qi, Heng Rushi, Juling, and the others. They ascended step by step, stepping onto the glorious path. They bathed in divine light amidst the Sanskrit chants, as if they were ascending in broad daylight. Immeasurable deity. In the Taoist school, there was a peerless young man. He was majestic and independent, and his eyes were like stars. Behind him, Meng Wui, Yin Lihan, and the others bathed in the rain of light and stepped into the sky. In the farmer school, there was a goddess. She had a graceful figure, and her hair was tied up in a bun. She didn't wear much makeup, but her brows were furrowed, and her eyes were like autumn water. She was peerless and beautiful. Behind her followed Zhou Yu, Zhang Yunfeng, and the other extraordinary young men. They led thousands of followers of the farmer school, stepping into the sky step by step. There was a dark and boundless land between heaven and earth. There was a glorious path, and it was like a miracle that descended from the 9 heavens. In the dim light of the void, a purple-robed man was standing on a floating golden coffin. His posture was elegant and graceful, and his face was cold and handsome. His thick eyebrows were slightly raised in rebellion, and his dark and deep eyes were like black holes, mesmerizing people. The young man slightly raised his head, and his handsome side profile was perfect. His hair was tied up high on his head, and his long hair flowed down his back like flowing water. The space of the divine realm. The cold-looking young man spoke, and he began to step into the air. From the space around him, there was suddenly an endless black aura lingering, making his black eyes even darker and deeper. A woo! Behind him, there were countless roars and hisses. Many figures with frightening eyes followed behind him. A majestic black murderous aura turned into a wave that surged forward. The black murderous aura that covered the sky and covered the earth was like a dark cloud in the sky. It was extremely frightening. Legalism, the glorious path descended, and the light was resplendent. It was the gate to legalism, and the plane in the sky was dazzling. Chapter 1588. Sky City, which had been in ruins, had now been cleaned up and transformed into a vast plaza. In the sky, a beautiful figure stood there like a fairy. Her green robe fluttered in the wind, and her long black hair flowed down behind her head. She was as otherworldly as a fairy, and she looked down upon the world. At this moment, there was a man standing beside this alluring woman. His long black hair was untied and draped over his back. It was smooth like fine silk. On his handsome face, there was a pair of beautiful eyes that could captivate one's soul. This man was too handsome. He stood in the air with his red lips slightly pursed, looking like he was smiling yet not. His temperament was calm and elegant, as if he was standing in a posture that made him seem like he had experienced the vicissitudes of life. As he stood there, everything in the void around him seemed to become unimportant. He was the only person in this world. Go. Qin Tian opened his mouth and waved his hand, his eyes filled with anticipation. Boom! In the void, the transcendent woman and the handsome man flew out one after another, easily stepping onto the splendid path. Behind them were thousands of legalism disciples and countless followers. Roar! Within the beast region, the cries and roars of tens of thousands of beasts resounded through the 9 heavens. Numerous figures of demonic beasts appeared in the sky. Some were in human form, but most of them were in their true forms. Although some of them were not at their maximum size, it was still very shocking. Ferocious beasts roared. Spiritual birds soared into the sky, turning into a beast tide that rushed into the sky. They were densely packed as they entered the magnificent light avenue. Their speed was not fast, but every now and then, there would be demonic beasts that were swept off the magnificent light avenue. Those who didn't have the qualifications couldn't enter the divine realm. If they tried to force their way in, they would be killed. However, there were also some demonic beasts that were unwilling to give up and wanted to force their way in. They were confident that they could do so, but in the end, they were only able to take a few more steps before they were killed. Roar! The vast beast region was in an uproar. Countless beasts surged out, powerful and astonishing. Their scales were dense, and their wings were gorgeous. They were suffused with multicolored light, and their auras were shockingly ferocious. Demonic beasts that were rarely seen on normal days had all rushed out today just to enter the divine domain. Roar! The roar was like thunder, causing the earth to shake and the mountains to shake. A strange beast, the swan in eye, appeared. It was shaped like a tiger with dog fur, a human face, tiger feet, and a long tail. It was extremely shocking. Moo! The appearance of a primordial beast caused the surrounding demonic beasts to make way for it. It was a primordial beast, Kue. It was shaped like an ox but had no horns. Its body was enormous and completely black. It only had a single leg supporting it, yet its aura was terrifying to the extreme. Wah wah! With a sharp and ear-piercing neigh, a ferocious beast called Rhinoceros Chew appeared. It looked like a cow with black fur and neighed like a baby. It was rumored that this ferocious beast loved to feed on humans and was extremely ferocious. It was similar to a ferocious beast called Man-Face Tiger Body and Horse Belly. Woo woo! In the sky, the void trembled. A strange beast with a white head, a one-eyed snake tail, and a white elephant bull appeared. It immediately startled everyone, and all the demonic beasts were afraid that they wouldn't be able to escape in time. This was an ancient beast. It was known as the Qi, the beast of plague. Rumor had it that it originated from Mount Tai, and wherever it went, plague followed. Roar! Yonghe, an ancient mutated beast, appeared. It had red eyes, a red mouth, and yellow fur. It looked like an ape, and it was said that its appearance was accompanied by a great disaster. Whoosh! A giant wasp appeared. Its entire body flowed with multicolored light. It was the dark wasp, and its belly was as big as a pot. It was poisonous, and not even a true dragon would yield to it. Rumble! One after another, ferocious beasts that were rarely seen in the beast region appeared. They stepped onto the glorious path and entered the divine domain. Rumble! Rumble! Suddenly, heaven and earth trembled. Large clans moved out. One after another, enormous serpents appeared. They were like enormous dragons. There were numerous enormous elephants whose bodies were suffused with lightning. They were like moving mountain peaks as they moved out in groups. One after another, enormous demon vultures flew through the air. They flapped their wings, causing everyone to flee. No one dared to block their path. It's the heavenly serpent clan. Primordial lightning elephants. They're here too. And the demon vultures. Everyone exclaimed. When encountering such terrifying existences, they had no choice but to flee. They didn't dare provoke them in time. Roar. Countless Yao clans appeared. Then, amidst the roars of the Yao fire spirit tiger, earth-shattering bear, nine-headed phoenix, and other large clans appeared. Their auras blotted out the sky and shook the beast region. The hearts of millions of Yao trembled. Those bloodlines were something they couldn't resist. None of the Yao clans dared to block their path. They stepped aside, allowing them to step onto the glorious path first. Roar. The beast region. This is the power of the beast region. I've become a beast region cultivator. What power? Some Yao beasts roared like thunder. Countless Yao beasts were overjoyed. As soon as they stepped onto the glorious path, they were immediately enveloped by a vast, invisible power. A mysterious power poured into their bodies. In an instant, they stepped into the beast region. It was a wondrous feeling they'd never felt before. Rumble. Suddenly, golden light burst out in the sky. Many figures broke through the air and arrived. A domineering pressure spread out from their bodies, causing the surrounding void to tremble. They appeared in the sky, beneath the glorious path. The figures in the lead stood tall and straight. Their auras were astonishing. It's the golden-winged rocks. I've seen them in the heavenly beast tomb. The golden-winged rocks are here. They've already come out. They've destroyed many of Kyushu's sects. The demon king Du Xiaofu is a human, but he's the young master of the golden-winged rocks. I heard that apart from Du Xiaofu, the golden-winged rocks also have a nirvana paragon. That's a paragon beast clan. Their foundation is too deep. They're on par with the dragons and phoenixes. The surrounding Yao beasts instinctively retreated. They didn't dare to block the golden-winged rock's path. Their auras were too terrifying. See you in the divine region. The golden-winged rocks transformed into their true forms. They destroyed space and flapped their wings. They emitted a resplendent golden light as they charged fearlessly into the glorious path. They weren't swept away, and they flew straight into the depths. Rumble. The surrounding auras surged, and violent winds blew. Below them, sand and pebbles flew. Figures immediately rushed into the glorious path in excitement. Old Yao, Brother Qingchun, let's go in. Be careful. Du Xiaofu waved his hand and said to Master Apothecary Yi Wuming, Sacred Array Child Zhun Qingchun, and the others. Whoosh whoosh. All of a sudden, many figures rushed out and stepped onto the splendid avenue. It was as if they were bathed in divine light. Master Apothecary Yi Wuming, Yi Piaoling, and Qiangu you weren't excluded. Du Yunlong, Du Xiaoman, Little Tiger, Blue Fantasy, Scarlet Rock, Silver-Winged Demonic Eagle, General, Gu Xinyan, Dongli Diao, Lin Weiqi, and the others had all successfully stepped onto the glorious path. The glorious path was also a test. It proved that they were talented enough to step into the domain realm in the future, and that they wouldn't be mediocre people. Du Xiaoyao, Du Xiaoqing, Jialo Jueyu, and Jialo Kaling were already in the martial domain. At this moment, they also stepped onto the glorious path without any pressure. Haha, is this the power of the domain realm? I feel like I have endless power in my body. It's inexhaustible. The domain realm, this is the power of the domain realm. Everyone was astonished, shocked, and flabbergasted. As soon as they stepped onto the glorious path, they were immediately enveloped by a mysterious force. They had the cultivation and experience of the domain realm. It was indescribably mysterious and useful. On the bright, glorious path, Du Xiaofu was enveloped by a rain of light. It was as if he was bathed in an ancient aura. His whole body was indescribably comfortable. At this moment, Du Xiaofu also saw that on the glorious path, there seemed to be a straight path to the sky. In fact, there were many steps condensed by mysterious runes. These dazzling runes and mysterious runes led to the sky. The higher one looked, the greater the resistance. As soon as he stepped onto the glorious path, Du Xiaofu didn't feel any change in his cultivation. His own cultivation didn't change at all. However, the mysterious force and runes around him attracted Du Xiaofu's attention. "Brother, let's go up," Du Xiaoqing said to Du Xiaofu. Everyone was excited and moved towards the divine domain. "You guys go in first. I want to study this place," Du Xiaofu said to Du Xiaoqing. He seemed to have discovered something in the glorious path and was somewhat fascinated. "Let's go. I don't want to bother with him. Let him study slowly." Du Xiaoyao curled her lips. She didn't want to bother with Du Xiaofu. Then, she and Du Xiaoqing left. Very strange. Du Xiaofu stared at the runes on the glorious path and studied them. He felt a familiar aura. It was like déjà vu. He was able to resonate with it. Immediately, he began to study it with interest. What is that demon king doing? Why isn't he moving? All the beasts were surprised. They raised their heads and stared at the demon king with their ominous eyes. The golden-winged great Pongbird clan arrived majestically. All the beasts made way for them. They didn't dare to fight with them. The remaining beasts were still waiting below to pass through the glorious path and enter the divine domain. However, at this moment, the demon king was squatting on the glorious path. Then, he took 2 steps forward and stomped his feet. Heavens! What is that demon king doing? Is that demon king trying to destroy the path? Suddenly, the crowd was stunned to discover that the terrifying demon king had actually begun to condense his attacks. He was constantly attacking the magnificent light path, causing the entire magnificent light path to sway, as if it was about to collapse. Everyone was terrified. This was the first guy who had nothing better to do. He attacked the glorious path. Not good. If the path collapses, none of us will be able to enter. Some beasts were anxious. They didn't care anymore and immediately rushed into the glorious path. They were afraid that the path would be destroyed by the demon king. At that time, none of them would be able to enter. Swish, however, when this beast just stepped into the glorious path, it was immediately repelled by a huge rebounding force. It didn't have the qualifications to enter the divine domain. Chapter 1589. Bang! At the same time, a beam of golden light shot out from Du Xiaofu's hand, violently slamming into the rune steps of the Way of Splendor beneath his feet. With a muffled sound, the rune steps were actually on the verge of collapsing. Some runes were about to shatter, rumble, almost at the same time. In the depths of the magnificent light path, an enormous wave of energy shot down like a bolt of lightning. It pierced through time and space and knocked Du Xiaofu off the path. Du Xiaofu fell from the sky and slammed into the earth below. Rumbling sounds filled the air as he crashed into the earth, leaving a deep ravine in the ground. Rubble shot out like a meteor. Punishment. Golden runes appeared in the sky, like the incantation of a god. Everyone in the world knew what was happening, and their expressions changed. What's going on? It looks like someone's being punished. Is someone being punished by the divine domain? I've never heard of anything like this. Just who is it that's so infuriating that they were punished by the divine domain? The whole world was talking about it. Everyone was searching everywhere, wanting to know who it was that was so infuriating to the heavens, to actually provoke the divine domain and be punished by it. The beast region was even more silent and stunned. All the beasts watched with their own eyes as the savage demon king, Du Xiaofu, was blasted off the magnificent light path by the divine domain. He didn't even have the strength to fight back. They couldn't help but gasp. That demon king is too savage. He's infuriating. He provoked the divine domain for no reason. Now he's suffering the consequences. The beasts discussed amongst themselves. Some laughed loudly. Then, more people charged onto the magnificent light path, wanting to enter the divine domain to search for opportunities. However, a steady stream of demonic beasts was swept off the path. Du Xiaofu rushed out of the rubble, his face covered in grime. He stood in midair, gazing up at the magnificent light path. Finally, a look of reverence appeared in his eyes. He didn't dare act presumptuously anymore. I just wanted to study it. There's no need to kick me off. Du Xiaofu patted his purple battle robes, smoothed out his messy hair, and curled his lip. Inwardly, he felt sullen. The divine domain was too unfriendly. Chi. After that, Du Xiaofu continued to soar into the sky and stepped onto the splendid light avenue. He was somewhat cautious, fearing that he would not be able to step onto it a second time. Fortunately, Du Xiaofu successfully stepped into the divine domain once again. The divine domain's space was only a punishment, and it did not disqualify him. Roar. The demonic beasts in the surroundings no longer paid any attention to Du Xiaofu. They all soared up into the sky, flapping their wings and letting out shocking roars. Rays of light erupted, and a ferocious aura swept across the sky. Demonic beasts continuously stepped onto the path of light, and after that, they were all pleasantly surprised. However, they would all maintain a certain distance from Du Xiaofu. They were unwilling to provoke this ferocious demon king. No one was willing to provoke the young master of the golden-winged great rocks either. It isolates everything. It's very profound. Du Xiaofu stood on the splendid avenue, as if he had comprehended something. On the splendid avenue, mysterious runes flickered, and a rain of light poured down. It was resplendent and gorgeous, and there was a vast and mighty force that made people feel as if they were about to be enlightened. Du Xiaofu did not dare to rashly attack the splendid avenue again. However, he walked back and forth on the splendid avenue, sometimes walking out, sometimes entering. Inside and outside, one enters and one exits. Entering is like a prison, exiting is like seeing the sun. Du Xiaofu mumbled, "This is the heart being bound, sinking deep into nothingness, unable to free itself, unable to see the truth of all laws, unable to see the impermanence of all laws." Du Xiaofu was pondering and comprehending the 10,000 beast struggle. Roar. The surrounding roars were like thunder, and all the beasts were struggling to cross. At this moment, Du Xiaofu was isolated from everything, and was immersed in his own comprehension. All laws of nirvana, exterminating all living things. In reality, there are no living things that can be exterminated. All laws have no self, comprehending nirvana. Suddenly, Du Xiaofu looked at the depths of the splendid avenue and narrowed his eyes. It was a dazzling, illusory, and resplendent great Tao. Then, Du Xiaofu sat cross-legged on the splendid avenue, surrounded by runes that poured down like a rain of light. He began to comprehend. What is that demon king doing? Is he having an epiphany? He must have been punished by the divine domain's space just now. Seeing the strange behavior of that savage demon king, all the beasts were curious, but they still did not dare to disturb him. That savage demon king had long been famous, and he was also the young master of the golden-winged great Pongbird clan. No demonic beast dared to touch him. The demonic beasts that could set foot on the splendid avenue instantly had the cultivation of the domain realm, but they still had to avoid him, not daring to get close to that savage demon king. A demon king that had already been punished by the divine domain's space. It was better to avoid him, lest they also suffer an undeserved calamity. Rumble. The sound of Tao resounded throughout the world. The divine domain's space opened, and all the living things in the world fought to enter. Domain realm. This is the power of the domain realm. I'm in the domain realm, powerful power. Between heaven and earth, living things on the splendid avenue were pleasantly surprised, as they immediately had the power of the domain realm after setting foot on the splendid avenue. However, there was also an old man and a powerhouse who secretly frowned. Their cultivation had long surpassed the initial stage of the domain realm, and they would not be swept down by the divine domain space. They just wanted to take the risk and enter the divine domain space to look for opportunities and compete with the young people. However, as soon as they set foot on the splendid avenue, their cultivation was immediately suppressed. No matter how strong their cultivation was, it was suppressed to the initial stage of the domain realm, and they could not go any further. Their realm was still there, but their cultivation was suppressed, which was more advantageous than some of the young people. However, they had to be careful and did not dare to be careless. This was because it was said that the older generation of people who had surpassed the initial stage of the martial domain and the initial stage of the 9 stars realm would not be protected by the divine domain space, except for being suppressed to the initial stage of the domain realm. If they died in the divine domain space, They would die, and there would not be a second chance. However, the young geniuses were not included in the divine domain space. Everything in the divine domain space was biased towards the younger generation, especially the young geniuses. No, on the splendid avenue, countless living things were thrown down one after another. They could not set foot on the splendid avenue, as they were not qualified. Countless living things shouted and roared. They were unwilling to accept the fact that they were mediocre, and they were full of regret and disappointment. This was especially true for many martial honorable realm cultivators. They had already stepped into the martial honorable realm and were the strongest in this world, but they could not go any further and could not enter the divine domain space. This proved that if nothing unexpected happened in their lives, they had already reached the end of their cultivation. This made them feel very vexed and regretful. Sigh, between the heavens and the earth, there were old figures sighing. There were experts who felt that it was a pity that many of their descendants and disciples could not set foot on the divine domain space. Only those who were qualified could enter the divine domain space. In this world, there were not many martial domain realm cultivators. However, Kyushu, the 9 families, the demon realm, the beast region, the 4 seas, Wudong Mountain, the 3 continents, and other places added up to quite a few. More importantly, in this world, as long as the living things were talented enough, they could enter the divine domain space, regardless of their age or cultivation level. There were more than billions of living things in this world, and those with potential could enter. At this moment, there were many people who had stepped into the divine domain space. It was densely packed, and there was a sea of people. Everyone wanted to obtain an opportunity to improve themselves. Some great forces hoped to obtain a great opportunity and prosper in this world. Some forces had even planned for countless years, from ancient times until now. This was their last chance to enter with all their strength. On the splendid avenue, some people had already taken the lead and entered the depths of the light, disappearing from sight as they stepped into the divine domain space. Countless figures followed behind them. They were like carps crossing the dragon's gate. Only after crossing the dragon's gate would they be able to become dragons. In the sky, the splendid avenue stretched across the void, leading in all directions. All kinds of light shone resplendently in the sky, spewing out purple mist. It was gorgeous and moving, and the energy of heaven and earth was dense. Legalism, on the sky plains, on the splendid avenue, thousands of figures entered the divine domain space, carrying the hopes and expectations of legalism. Thousands of people entered, hoping to obtain many opportunities and prosper legalism. This time, legalism has a great opportunity. In the legalism's lineup, many experts revealed joy and anticipation. They placed their hopes on the thousands of disciples who entered the divine domain space. Most importantly, they knew how strong the 2 leaders were. The 2 leaders, one of them was a natural-born supreme, and the other was a true monstrous genius. If they worked together, who in the divine domain could resist them? They could sweep through everything. Line up and follow us into the divine domain space. Assist legalism. As long as you obtain opportunities, you can become an official member of the legalism. Around the splendid avenue, there were many legalism experts commanding the last few followers to ascend the splendid avenue. The responsibility of these followers was to support the disciples of the school of legalism. The school of legalism had promised that as long as they could obtain fortuitous encounters in the divine realm, they could become official members of the school of legalism. This was a great temptation. Go in and search for opportunities. As long as you can obtain opportunities in the divine domain, you can transcend and receive the full support and protection of legalism. The second protector's voice spread out, making the last followers' blood boil. They were filled with excitement and anticipation. Suddenly, a bolt of lightning silently appeared in the air. It was too fast, and wherever the lightning passed, the void would shatter. It silently appeared in front of the second protector. Someone had launched a sneak attack in front of legalism and under the eyes of the 2 legalism's ancestors. This was beyond everyone's imagination, especially those from legalism. Bang! The bolt of lightning appeared and arrived in front of the second protector like a bolt of lightning. Only then did the air rumble and explode. The dazzling lightning was like a lightning bomb. The second protector was not a weakling. He immediately reacted, but it was too late for him to defend. He felt the strength of the sneak attack, and he activated his defense with all his strength. The halo around his body suddenly burst out like a dazzling sun. It was so dazzling that people could not look at it directly. In an instant, an ancient prayer bead was thrown out from the second protector's hand. Above the prayer bead, holy light appeared, and a secret technique lingered. Runes filled the sky, and finally, it turned into a huge halo, directly locking him in. Rumble. Lightning exploded like rolling thunder, and the holy runes on the halo were blown apart. The terrifying power of lightning shattered the ancient prayer bead, and the light was shattered. The sonic boom was like a thunderclap that resounded through the sky, echoing endlessly. PFFF. The second protector suddenly spat out blood, and his eyes were filled with shock. At this moment, he saw a figure that seemed familiar. At the same time, a vast and terrifying aura erupted, and the second protector could not resist it. A lightning claw directly grabbed his neck, like an eagle grabbing a chick. You dare to sneak attack my legalism? You're courting death. In a flash, Li Qinfa and Qin Tianshi were the first to rush out. They were furious. A sneak attack in front of the legalism's door was a slap in the face. A vast aura erupted, and the two legalism ancestors distorted the void, imprisoning everything. The air exploded, and runes bloomed like fireworks as they immediately rushed towards the sneak attacker. Afterwards, even though the two old men from the school of legalism had taken action at the same time, something shocking happened. The assailant was already prepared. No matter how powerful or fast the two old men were, the assailant would have ripped open space and fled long ago. Unexpectedly, the ambusher didn't run away. Instead, he directly stepped onto the magnificent light avenue, stepping onto it in one fell swoop. No matter how strong the two legalism ancestors were, they could distort the void and imprison the space, but they could not imprison the magnificent light path that stretched out from the divine domain. Chapter 1590. The figure stepped onto the splendid avenue and stood upright. His face was handsome and his eyes flashed with lightning. His gaze was sharp and his hair danced in the wind like electric arcs. It's you. The second protector was horrified. With his neck restrained, a hoarse and hoarse voice emerged from his throat. He recognized the person who had restrained him. It was Du Tingxian. Back then, he had led the people from the school of legalism to bring back Han Aodong and Du Xiaojing. Because of this, he had performed a great service and received the school of legalism's support. His cultivation had skyrocketed in recent years. However, the second protector had never imagined that the lowly commoner and ant he had looked down upon back then would be able to capture him in such a powerful manner and become so tyrannical. Yes, it's me. I was never the lowly commoner you spoke of. Now, you're an ant in my hands, Du Tingxian said as he stared at the second guardian. His sharp eyes were filled with killing intent. He's Du Tingxian, Du Xiaofu's father. That's him. He's Du Tingxian, Du Xiaofu's father. Many people in the legalism group exclaimed. Some of them had seen Du Tingxian before and recognized him. Du Tingxian, what are you trying to do? Do you want to die by touching a member of the legalism? Li Qinfa spoke, his voice reverberating in all directions. However, he didn't chase after the radiant light path. He couldn't enter it at all. If he tried to force his way in, his cultivation base would exceed the boundaries of the divine realm. If he tried to force his way in, he would be killed by the divine realm. Even if he could enter, his cultivation base would be suppressed to the same level. I've already told you not to touch my son until I'm alive. Unless I'm dead, the consequences will be severe if I get angry. Du Tingxuan's voice was extremely calm, but it was incomparably sharp. As his voice fell, the killing intent in his eyes was not concealed at all. Crack, crack. Lightning flashed from the claw and then exploded. The second protector of legalism had his neck twisted. In the explosion of lightning, his body turned into ashes and his soul was destroyed. The second guardian's primordial spirit didn't even have a chance to escape. He died in an instant, killed by Du Tingxian in front of all the legalism experts. Rumble. Many of the followers of the school of legalism in the surroundings were directly blasted off the avenue of splendor by the lightning, suffering an unexpected calamity. Many people were blasted off the avenue of splendor, becoming heavily injured. Kill him. Qin Tian was enraged. His voice was gloomy, reverberating through the void. His eyes were dazzling. Now that Du Tingxian was being so presumptuous in front of the whole world, legalism's face was completely lost. Kill. Immediately, many figures from legalism rushed out and stepped onto the splendid avenue. They were going to kill Du Tingxian and wipe away the humiliation of legalism. Rumble. In an instant, many figures rushed over. They were all legalism experts. They activated legalism's methods, various attacks, and various techniques. Roar. The martial spirit roared and the martial spirit was activated. Energy erupted like a rainbow, bright light illuminating the sky. They stepped onto the splendid light avenue. They were going to kill Du Tingxian. Kill. The killing intent in Du Tingxuan's sharp eyes was not concealed at all. Lightning shot out, thunder exploded, and hand seals condensed. Lightning lingered on the surface of his body, and a thunder armor covered him. It was as if he had turned into a thunder god. The thunder was tens of thousands of feet long, bright and gorgeous, and the aura was ancient and destructive. The terrifying power shook the magnificent light path. Pong! A low rumble of thunder resounded as Du Tingxian attacked. His attacks were grand and unstoppable. A middle-aged man from the school of legalism had his body smashed apart with a single palm strike. He was reduced to a bloody mist, and his soul was obliterated under the resplendent glow of lightning. Boom! An old man was engulfed by thunder, and his physical body was destroyed. His primordial spirit had just escaped when Du Tingxian arrived and smashed it with a palm. Rumble. A long-haired old man gnashed his teeth, his eyes flashing with uncontrollable fury. He was like an enraged lion. His magical technique was activated and a vast might descended, suppressing Du Tingxian. Break! Du Tingxian blasted out a fist. Lightning flashed and illuminated the sky. The old man's expression changed. He felt his heart palpitate and his technique was trembling. This was his strongest ability. He had killed countless experts in the outside world. But at this moment, the old man saw his technique being blasted apart by Du Tingxuan's fist. It crumbled inch by inch. The old man was aghast. Du Tingxian had shattered his technique with a single punch. He was an expert of legalism and could defeat his peers in the outside world. But at this moment, he was defeated by Du Tingxian at the same level of cultivation. This was too terrifying. The old man was indescribably shocked. Du Tingxian was so powerful that he wanted to retreat, but it was too late. Du Tingxian appeared in front of him, and a palm print of thunder slammed into his body. He was blown to pieces on the spot and turned into ashes. Boom! Du Tingxian attacked again, killing a pulse soul that had turned into a true spirit and smashing a middle-aged man's chest with a single punch. No! The middle-aged man screamed. The destructive power of thunder poured into his body and destroyed his vitality. No matter how he resisted, it was useless. The thunder could destroy everything. In the end, his body exploded and his soul scattered. Hey, legalism is making a shocking move. Someone is killing the people of legalism. Who is it? The appearance of the divine domain stirred up heaven and earth, connecting the heavens and the earth. The 9 Kyushu families, the 3 continents, the 1 realm, the 4 seas, and the mountain of Parasol began to connect invisibly. An old figure in the void was able to observe from afar and was astonished. Rumble. In just 2 or 3 minutes, 8 experts of legalism were killed by Du Tingxian at the same level of cultivation. Like a hot knife through butter, the legalists were unable to resist at all. All of the legalists were stupefied. This was another terrifying existence just like Du Xiaofu, sweeping through all of his peers. He was unrivaled and possessed an unrivaled might. You can't even withstand a single blow. Du Tingxian stood on the path of light. He was as straight as a spear as he stared down at the people of legalism below. How sharp was that? This is a challenge to our legalism. Qin Tianshi and Li Chunfa's faces were red. They gnashed their teeth and their veins bulged. Their eyes were blazing with anger, but they did not send anyone forward. They had already lost 8 experts. They were furious, but they still maintained a clear head. They knew that they would only be sending themselves to death if they went up. How hateful! This is a humiliation that must be washed away. Within the legalist experts, 10,000 eyes were glaring angrily, their hair and fingers splitting apart. They were furious, but no one dared to go up. That Du Tingxian was too terrifying, sweeping through all of his peers, unmatched. Arrogant Junior, do you think you can be safe just because you're up there? You killed a disciple of legalism. I'll destroy your Du family. Li Chunfa was furious. His aura erupted, causing the sun, moon, and stars to move. He tore through the void and left towards the direction of the central continent. His target was the desolate country's stone city. He wanted Du Tingxian to come down and let Qin Tianshi deal with Du Tingxian. He wanted to wipe away the shame of legalism. However, Du Tingxian did not move at all. He did not pay any attention to him. Rumble. The heaven and earth trembled, the earth quaked, and the void collapsed. The ancestor of legalism, Li Chunfa, was enraged. He traveled through the void and descended towards the central continent. Along the way, he caused strange phenomena and alarmed millions of creatures. Legalism dares to touch the Du family. The golden-winged Peng race will exterminate all orthodoxies of legalism. At the end of the void, an aged voice came from far away. The experts of the golden-winged Peng race were rushing over. Legalism can forget about touching the Du family. My Yinyang school will demand an explanation. The Mo family is here. Li Chunfa, don't go too far. Almost at the same time, in the depths of the void, an expert transmitted his voice. He was crossing the void and hurrying over to the central continent. Li Chunfa was furious. He was not stopped by the shout. He wanted to take action. He crossed the vast sky and descended on the central continent. He would not leave the matter at that. He wanted to exterminate the Du family. The Du family is too impudent. They should be exterminated. Li Chunfa appeared above the desolate country. He stirred up the wind and clouds. Accompanied by the power of heaven and earth, it was as if the world was about to be destroyed. He wanted to destroy the entire desolate country. He wanted to destroy the stone city and exterminate the Du family. Rumble. This kind of terrifying power was incomparably terrifying. The mysterious talisman patterns were resplendent. The heavens fell, and the earth cracked. The void collapsed and collapsed. Below, mountains and rivers broke apart. Volcanoes erupted. The scene was astonishing. Is this the end of the world? Above the central continent, millions of creatures were trembling in fear. The creatures in the desolate country were even more horrified. Everything was too terrifying. Scram. At this moment, from within the desolate country's stone city, the word scram was heard. It shook the 9 heavens. Then, a huge claw stretched out. Vast lightning rushed into the sky. This claw was too huge. It was as if it could crush the stars. Lightning talisman patterns intertwined. Mysterious talisman patterns bloomed. The pressure was earth-shattering. The divine power shook the past and the present. Rumble. In mid-air, the void collapsed. Everything in the path of the claw was destroyed. Li Chunfa's mighty power burst out in a dazzling light. However, the stalemate did not last long. It dissipated above the void. The destructive power was resisted. The huge claw left 5 long pitch-black void cracks in the void. Then, it dissipated. The Du family has such an expert. Li Chunfa's figure smashed through the void. He staggered back. In his fury, he stomped on the void and stabilized his body. Suddenly, he was shocked in the void. Li Chunfa never thought that the small, desolate country's stone city, the small Du family, would have such an expert guarding it. When the old master was still alive, killing people of your legalism was like slaughtering dogs. Scram. Within the stone city's Du family, there was such a voice that shook the void. It was like thunder. It was so powerful that it made people tremble. Rumble. 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 At the same time, at the end of the void, 3 figures descended. There was a dazzling golden light that made the void tremble. It was incomparably domineering. There was a misty starlight that circulated the yin and yang qi. The sky was filled with mist. The world was moist. Then, it turned into ice. It wanted to freeze the void. An old woman appeared in the void. An old man with starlight descended. There was also a beautiful woman. My school of agriculture and the Dew family have a lot of connections. Touching the Dew family is like touching my school of agriculture. Suddenly, the void rippled again. An old man descended. He looked like he was in his 70s. His clothes were simple and plain. He rolled up his trousers as if he had just come from a farm. However, as he descended, the entire Zhengzhou rumbled. The 8,000 miles of Zhengzhou's long river turned into raging waves. Garuda Mola, Starlight, Ice Ink, Elder Dai Pai. Seeing the four figures, Li Chunfa's expression changed. Especially when he saw Garuda Mola, his eyes became gloomy. Anyone who wants to come to Zhengzhou can come. At this moment, in the direction of the Great Luan sect, a figure silently appeared in the void. It was an old woman. As the figure appeared, she raised her hand and slapped at Li Chunfa. Chapter 1591. This palm was very powerful, causing the entire void to tremble. The light was blinding, and brilliant runes were released. The runes intertwined, and strange phenomena appeared in the void. Li Chunfa retaliated. Legalism's methods were shocking. His fist contained great momentum, and runes intertwined in all directions, blazing like lightning. This fist was filled with a monstrous momentum, and it pierced through the void. Pitch-black spatial cracks spread out, destroying everything as it collided. Boom! A large part of the void was shattered, and the earth below shook, shaking the 9 heavens. Boom! Boom! Li Chunfa was pushed back. The dignified patriarch of legalism was actually pushed back. The scene before them made the few super experts feel incredulous. Even the old lady of the golden-winged Great Rock clan raised her eyebrows slightly. Whoosh! Whoosh! Above the void, many figures appeared again. They were from the Ancient Heaven sect, Stygian sect, Immeasurable sect, Mysterious Talisman sect, and others. There were old figures, men, women, and even middle-aged figures. Every one of them was very powerful, but they could not be compared to I Singmo, Old Monster Xing Hun, and Old Man Di Ho. They were far away and did not get too close. They looked at the old lady in surprise. Under everyone's gaze, the old lady's figure staggered, but her eyes were deep. She was Dongli Qingqing's master, and many people in the central continent had already seen her. Li Chunfa looked at the old lady in midair, and his eyes twitched violently. He then looked at Garuda Mola and glanced at the stone city below. Without any hesitation, he tore open the void and left, not daring to stay any longer. Where do you think you're going? The old lady was furious. Golden light burst out, and she tore open the void to chase after him. I Singmo, Old Monster Xing Hun, and Old Man Di Ho looked at each other, and then followed the old lady. The old lady looked at the desolate country's stone city in midair, and her eyes were filled with surprise. She then disappeared in midair. Roar boom! In the depths of the void, a dragon's roar resounded, and a vast aura descended. 2 terrifying old men also rushed over and appeared in the central continent's void. The depths of the 2 elders' eyes were fluctuating with divine light. They looked in the direction of the barren country's stone city and revealed looks of astonishment. Then, they broke through the air and headed in the direction of legalism. Du Tingxian stood ramrod straight on the grand avenue of the sky plains, his eyes sharp. Damn it! The people from the school of legalism were furious. Their faces darkened, and their eyes burned with rage. However, none of them dared to step forward. There was nothing they could do. They could only watch Du Tingxian rumble. Not long after, the sky began to tremble. The entire sky plains began to tremble as if the earth was quaking and the mountains were swaying. The people of legalism looked on in shock. Then, they saw their ancestor return in a sorry state. He was panting and his hair was in a mess. Behind him, a domineering golden figure was chasing after him. Garuda Mola. Qin Tian's expression changed. With a shake of his dragon robe, A lifelike golden dragon rushed out like a living creature. The formless aura around him suppressed the heavens. Mysterious runes erupted, turning into a world. It caused the universe to revolve, blocking the golden figure that was chasing after Li Chunfa. Legalism is too much. Waves of starlight rippled out, as if a river of stars had appeared in the void. An ancient and vast pressure was released. Old monster Xing Hui had arrived to help the old lady. On the sky plains, the void was changing. A wave of cold chi spread out and frost fell. The earth rumbled and the entire sky plains began to tremble. Bing Imo and Old Man Deepai arrived. They did not speak, but their aura was self-evident. The School of Agriculture, Moism, and the golden-winged great rocks have formed an alliance. The wind and clouds surged in the sky as the roar of a dragon resounded. The appearance of two elders caused the void to solidify. The two elders' eyes were like torches. One of them was majestic, and his whole body was emitting the aura of a true dragon. The other elder had a slender figure, wearing a red robe. His whole body was surrounded by fiery light, burning the sky like a volcano erupting. The arrival of these two elders allowed Qin Tian and Li Chunfa to heave a sigh of relief. Otherwise, they would not be able to deal with Garuda Mola, Bing Imo, Old Monster Xing Hun, and Old Man Deepai. Gong Sunhua, Long Tongue. Are you guys forming an alliance with legalism? Old Man Deepai raised his eyebrows, looking surprised. Long Tongue, you dare to come? The old lady's eyes shone with golden light. She did not have a good impression of the dragons and golden rock race. Looking at the old lady, the old man called Long Ting also had a gloomy expression. The golden rock race was the archenemy of the dragons. There was a deep hatred between them. Umitba, immeasurable deity. The divine domain will open for the last time. A great calamity will descend. Everyone, please calm down. Everyone, please calm down. The divine domain is opening. We must not cause a storm of blood. Suddenly, the sky above the plains began to tremble. As the voice faded, one figure after another descended. In a split second, the image of a Buddha floated in the air. Resplendent runes rained down. There were old figures and majestic figures that appeared on the sky plains. It was like a miracle. These figures appeared one after another, standing in the air. Every single one of them was incomparably powerful. They were the experts of the 9 great families. They would not be attracted by the sudden change under the influence of Bing Imo, Old Monster Xing Hun, and Li Chunfa. Many thanks to the seniors of the Golden Rock Race for taking care of my son. Many thanks to the School of Yin Yang, School of Imo, and School of Agriculture for your help. Du Tingxian thanks you. On the splendid avenue, Du Tingxian cupped his fists. He had learned many things. After the divine domain opens, my father and I will personally settle the score with legalism. At that time, if there is anything I need to rely on the seniors, I will naturally ask for your help. But for today, we can forget about it. Du Tingxian said. Hearing Du Tingxuan's words, everyone's gazes turned to that upright figure. The eyes of those from the school of legalism twitched. They had never imagined that after sending off Garuda Mola and Fui Bai that day, Du Tingxian would appear from the Du family. He was the source of all their troubles. At that time, legalism's ancestor had spoken up to protect the father and son. But in the short span of 20 years, the father and son had grown to a terrifying extent. Originally, the school of law had never taken the father and son seriously, but unknowingly, the people from the school of law discovered that not only had the father and son grown to such a powerful level, but the people around them had also reached a terrifying level. Their wings had grown, and they had reached a point where legalism could do nothing about them. They even had to fear them. Boom! Suddenly, lightning burst out from the splendid avenue. It was resplendent and dazzling, and a vast aura swept through the sky. Du Tingxuan's body was wrapped in endless lightning that resounded through the void. He seems to have reached the peak of the sealed domain realm. The experts around were not ordinary. They had extraordinary eyesight and could sense Du Tingxuan's cultivation level through the splendid avenue. Boom! Du Tingxian stepped out from the splendid avenue and stepped onto the runic stairs behind him. Faint sounds of dragons and snakes roaring could be heard. Endless lightning burst out from his body and traversed the void. What is he doing? Du Tingxian seems to be cultivating by himself. The experts present were shocked and astonished, and all of them had a change of expression. They saw a shocking scene. Du Tingxian had taken a step forward, and his sealed domain realm cultivation base had plummeted to the early martial domain realm. Boom! Du Tingxuan's second step was like a thunderclap that shook the surroundings. Lightning burst out from his body, and his aura dropped to the nirvana martial venerable realm, falling below the domain realm. Pucci. At this moment, the lightning armor on Du Tingxuan's body cracked, and he spat out blood. Arcs of lightning wreaked havoc on the surface of his body, and blood seemed to be flowing out. Those were traces of cracks on the surface of his body. Boom, boom, boom. Du Tingxian took several steps in a row. Each step was like a heavenly thunder, making the experts present shudder in fear. The legalism disciples' hearts trembled, and their eyes were filled with shock. When he took the last step, Du Tingxuan's aura was extremely weak. His whole body was dripping with blood, and it seemed like the surface of his body had cracked. His bones were broken, and his eyes were blood red. His mouth was full of blood. But at this moment, thunder was unceasingly rumbling, shaking the heavens. Hotian. He completely scattered his cultivation and crippled himself, falling from the sealed domain realm to the Hotian realm. Some experts were shocked. Du Tingxian had actually fallen from the sealed domain realm to the Hotian realm. This was equivalent to crippling his own cultivation and becoming an ant. The Hotian realm could not even be considered a martial artist. It was incomparably insignificant. Legalism. When we father and son come out, it will be time for us to settle the score. Du Tingxian turned around and waved his sleeve to wipe the blood from the corner of his mouth. Lightning spread out from his body, repairing the cracks on the surface of his body. Although his cultivation had fallen to the Hotian realm, how insignificant was that? At this moment, on the splendid light avenue, he was still in the martial domain realm. However, at this moment, Du Tingxuan's true cultivation level had been forcibly severed, falling to the Hotian realm and returning to normal. As soon as he finished speaking, Du Tingxian turned around and looked into the depths of the splendid light avenue. Without hesitation, he strode forward, leaving behind a shocking back view. Crippling his own cultivation. What kind of perseverance is this? He's dissatisfied with himself and wants to recultivate in the divine domain. He wants to walk on a different path. Bing Imo looked at the back view. Even someone as powerful as her was shocked. At the sealed domain realm, he was actually willing to cripple his own cultivation and walk on a path with unknown results. How many people in the world had this kind of perseverance? Moreover, just crippling one's own cultivation would cause one to suffer great pain. It was not something ordinary people could do. It's said that if one can make a breakthrough in the divine domain, they might be able to reach the nirvana stage. Old monster Xing Hun's body was surrounded by yin and yang qi, and his eyes were filled with starlight. Crippling one's cultivation requires great determination. Recultivating another path requires great perseverance. Entering the divine domain and tempering oneself in dangerous situations requires great perseverance. With great perseverance, and determination as the price, his goal is not something ordinary people can achieve. He wants to recultivate through nirvana. The old lady spoke. Her golden eyes were filled with shock. She smiled and murmured, like son, like father. Chapter 1592. The faces of the experts of legalism all twitched as they watched the tall figure vanish from the path of light. They gritted their teeth as coldness filled their eyes. Gong Sunhua's eyes were blazing. His aura was shockingly hot. One look from him was enough to turn a person to ash. Time passed slowly. The battle between the living beings of the world was coming to an end. For an entire day and night, light enveloped the sky. There was no sun or moon, and the 33 magnificent paths released endless light. Very few living beings continued to ascend the magnificent light path. In this world, all the living beings below the martial domain realm who were qualified to enter the divine domain space had basically entered. As for those who had surpassed the initial martial domain realm but hadn't reached the divine domain realm, not many of them entered. Those who entered were only loose cultivators and cultivators who were nearing the end of their lifespans. They could only search for opportunities. Otherwise, they would face the erosion of their lifespans. The sealed domain and great domain realm cultivators of the other large sects wouldn't easily take the risk. Although they would be able to gain some benefits by entering, it would be even more dangerous. The older generation like them wouldn't be protected by the divine domain. Without a life-saving talisman, death was death. The younger generation of cultivators who had surpassed the initial martial domain realm had entered long ago. They were able to obtain life-saving talismans. In the beast region, on the magnificent path, a rain of light swirled, spewing out purple mist. Countless figures and beasts circled below, waiting, curiously looking up at the sky. The demonic beasts who had the potential to enter the divine domain had already ascended the magnificent path. Those who failed were killed and reduced to blood mist, but only a small minority. Even more demonic beasts who failed were in awe. Although they were unwilling, they didn't dare to force their way in. They could only live with regret. What is the Demon King doing? Is he really stupid? It's already been a day and a night. Why isn't he going in? Is he trying to comprehend? Some demonic beasts discussed. They were very curious, but they didn't dare to disturb him. Rumbling sounds reverberated in the sky. Light rippled in the sky, as if the universe had turned upside down. The 33 magnificent paths began to rotate. Light spun in the sky. Dao integration is about to take place on the Qianhuang mainland. Suddenly, countless eyes trembled in the world. Many old figures began to cross the void and quickly headed towards the Qianhuang mainland. Open the wormhole and head to the Qianhuang mainland. Wormholes opened up in countless mountain gates, leading people to the Qianhuang mainland. The Qian Desolate mainland was one of the 3 continents in the Kyushu realm. Together with the ancient Desolate continent and the Tianhuang continent, it was known as the 3 continents. It was rumored that there were ancient secrets hidden there. Every time the God domain opened, the last 33 grand paths would merge into one and appear on the Qianhuang mainland. In the divine domain, those who met with danger or were killed would be sent out of the divine domain safely and appear on the Qianhuang mainland. In the sky, it was as if the universe was turning upside down. The 33 grand Tao of light spun and eventually turned into a single grand Tao of light that appeared above the Qianhuang mainland. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Quite a number of top experts descended on the Qin wasteland mainland one after another. They landed on numerous towering mountain peaks and looked up at the sky. Who's that kid? Suddenly, someone was surprised to see a figure sitting cross-legged on the grand Tao of light. He was shrouded in a rain of light, mysterious and profound. It was shocking. It's him, Du Xiaofu. There were people who recognized Du Xiaofu, such as Li Qinfa, Qin Tianshi, and the others. They immediately traversed through the void. Although they spent a lot of time, they had already arrived at the Qianhuang mainland. The old lady, Bing Imo, old freak Xinghun, and the others also saw Du Xiaofu. Whoosh, 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 whoosh. Time passed by slowly. More and more figures appeared on the Qianhuang mainland. They were all experts of their own mountain sects, or experts of their own clans. In an instant, the Qianhuang mainland was filled with experts. There were countless super experts. They stood in various places and distorted the void. Those who weren't strong enough didn't dare to get close. Roar. There were also many huge demonic beasts that appeared on the Qianhuang mainland. They were the 9-headed phoenix, demonic fire spirit tiger, heavenly snake clan, demonic vulture clan, immemorial thunder elephant, and other demonic beast experts. Their auras were so strong that even the old ancestors of the 9 great clans were shocked. These experts appeared on the Qianhuang mainland, and each of them occupied an area. Their auras were vast and boundless. Their eyes were looking up at the sky as if the sun was about to rise. Their auras were terrifying. That little guy is so strange. Who is he? A huge elephant stood on the mountain peak. Its body was shining brightly, and its eyes were filled with lightning. What a strange little guy. A huge bird hovered in midair, covering the sky. A terrifying aura lingered around it, causing many experts to be shocked. Is he trying to comprehend? As time passed, more and more people appeared on the Qianhuang mainland. They were all staring at Du Xiaofu curiously. Li Qinfa, Qin Tianshi and the others looked at the figure in the sky and gritted their teeth. But at this moment, Geru Maluo and the others were present. They were also on the splendid light avenue. Li Qinfa and the others wanted to take action, but there was nothing they could do. They could only look at the figure that was gritting their teeth in anger. They were helpless against him. I know that all laws are nirvanic. The laws were originally different, but now they are indestructible. This is the meaning of nirvanic. I understand now. Abruptly, a voice reverberated in the air. On the path of light, Du Xiaofu's tightly shut eyes opened as a brilliant light shot out from his mouth. What is the meaning of nirvanic extermination? Life and death is nirvanic. All laws are from the beginning, and they are nirvanic. Buzz. As soon as his voice fell, a majestic energy began to surge in the surroundings. It descended on the splendid light avenue and formed an energy vortex above his head, connecting the heavens and the earth. Walala. The energy of the heavens and the earth was very strange. There was not much energy fluctuation, only ancient runes flashing in the sky. At this moment, there were dazzling runes flashing on the surface of Du Xiaofu's body. As his skin vibrated, an ancient and shocking power was emitted. In the end, it resonated with the heavens and the earth, producing the sound of wind and thunder, echoing in the sky. The runes overflowed and finally affected the entire splendid light avenue. At this moment, the splendid light avenue seemed to have come alive. It was affected by something and began to fluctuate. In the end, it wrapped around his body. The ancient runes flashed like a river of stars flowing in reverse. The vast energy of the heavens and the earth fluctuated. A mysterious power descended and baptized Du Xiaofu's body. Rumble. At this moment, the heavens and the earth changed color. Du Xiaofu's body became more and more crystal clear. A surge of power surged and spread in all directions. That kid is breaking through. Everyone present was a powerhouse of the present age. Naturally, they could see that the young man in the purple battle robe was breaking through on the splendid light avenue. At this moment, Du Xiaofu was breaking through. He had been comprehending nirvana. When he was in Du Xiaoyao's runic space, he finally comprehended something. On the splendid light avenue, he suddenly had a flash of inspiration. He discovered something and began to comprehend. Du Xiaofu's comprehension was shocking. He had comprehended the ancient stone tablet and comprehended the tyrannical fist path, tyrannical sword path, and tyrannical chi path. At this moment, his comprehension was very smooth. Screech. On the splendid light avenue, all of Du Xiaofu's ultimacy and comprehension flashed. The supreme beast energy of the golden-winged rock clan, the star's ultimacy of the Yin-Yang school, the purple flames of the purple flame demonic phoenix clan, the nether cave grass ultimacy, the undead grass ultimacy, the true dragon ultimacy, the myriad beast energy, the spiritual thunder in the sky, the magnificent and desolate aura. Chapter 1593. Oh my God, just how many tricks does that brat have? Those present were the most powerful experts in the world. Their profundities could shake the world, and it was difficult for anyone to cultivate even one of them. But at this moment, the purple-robed youth had gathered all of them on his body, enveloping the surroundings and suppressing the universe. All kinds of profundities appeared, and the vast energy affected time and space, making the experts of the world change their expressions. Boom! In the end, golden light descended from the sky, and Du Xiaofu stood in the air, reaching perfection and advancing a step further. Bang! 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 Thunder rolled in all directions as Du Xiaofu was entwined by the magnificent light Great Tao. It was as if the river of stars was flowing in reverse. In heaven and earth, martial reigned supreme, looking disdainfully in all directions. He's a Nirvana Grand Supreme who has stepped into Nirvana. The experts of the world exclaimed, and their eyes were filled with shock as they looked at the purple-robed youth. He was sparkling and translucent, and a powerful and mysterious aura pervaded the air. He merged with heaven and earth, causing heaven and earth to resonate. That was a supreme being of heaven and earth, a godlike youth. It was as if a god had descended. Only those familiar with that youth knew that he was a demon king. At this moment, He had reached perfection on the magnificent light Great Tao and stepped into nirvana, shining brilliantly in the world. Ha ha, the old lady laughed. That was her grandson. He had broken through on the divine realm's magnificent light Great Tao and comprehended nirvana. He was the first person since ancient times to be able to shake the world. That brat has broken through and is a nirvana grand supreme. He can even comprehend nirvana like this. How powerful! Legalism is probably regretting it so much that their intestines are green. Many glanced at legalism's Li Chunfa and Qin Tianshi with faint mockery. They were watching the show. First, Du Xiaofu's father killed legalism, and then Du Xiaofu broke through again, shaking the world and dazzling the world. Legalism missed out on such a heavenly talent. Du Xiaofu was in the air, and his entire body was wrapped in ancient symbols. His body was bright and lustrous and flawless, and his eyes were clear and deep. At this moment, in the depths of Du Xiaofu's eyes, when they opened and closed, there was a golden light that resembled thunder and lightning. In the end, everything gradually calmed down. Du Xiaofu stood on the splendid avenue, looking down at the sky with a strange expression. Soon after, he felt many burning gazes directed at him. Looking over, he saw Li Chunfa, Qin Tianshi, and the other legalism people. Du Xiaofu immediately understood. This was the passageway that led to the divine domain. His cultivation would be suppressed, and those who surpassed the divine domain would not be able to enter. Therefore, they could only stare at him, unable to do anything to him. Du Xiaofu roughly sensed the time and looked around. Afterwards, a smile appeared in his eyes. He raised his head and gazed into the depths of the avenue of radiance. He narrowed his eyes and then turned back to look at Qin Tianshi and Li Chunfa. He said, Qin Tianshi, Li Chunfa, you two old bastards. The people from the school of legalism should have all entered the divine domain, right? Brat, how dare you? Being directly called by his name and threatened, Li Chunfa was enraged. But at this moment, Li Chunfa's heart was filled with dread. That brat could already sweep away his peers. Now that he had broken through, his strength was even more shocking. More importantly, that brat was a Supreme Nirvana Realm expert and a Grand Supreme Nirvana Realm expert. When he entered the divine domain, how many people could be his opponent? Thinking of this, Li Chunfa's heart trembled fiercely. Old fogey, do you think I don't dare? Just wait for the younger generation of legalism to be kicked out one by this emperor. Any opportunity has nothing to do with you legalism. Du Xiaofu sneered. On the splendid avenue, who would he be afraid of? Facing Li Chunfa and Qin Tianshi, he was absolutely not afraid. He said in a deep voice, if you two old fogies are not convinced, come up and fight if you have the ability. If you can come up, I'll kill you on the spot. At this moment, Du Xiaofu was full of confidence. As long as Li Chunfa and Qin Tianshi could come up to the splendid avenue, they would definitely kill the two old fogies. However, at this moment, Du Xiaofu was also very surprised. After breaking through, his cultivation had already stepped into the nirvana realm. However, on the splendid avenue, it seemed that he had not been suppressed back to the nirvana realm. He had been maintaining a new height. His body was filled with endless energy, as if he could crush rocks, move mountains, and overturn seas, and shatter the void. This made Du Xiaofu want to find an expert to fight and verify his current cultivation. Little bastard, when you come out, I'll tear you into pieces. Li Chunfa was so angry that his face was flushed red. His eyes were burning with anger. He did not have the demeanor of an old ancestor. From the moment he came out of seclusion to being abused, and even being slapped, all of this was because of Du Xiaofu. At this moment, he was pointed at by Du Xiaofu and scolded. Li Chunfa's feelings in his heart could be imagined. He was already going crazy and did not care about his image. Do you have the ability? The old lady glanced at Li Chunfa in the distance. She did not take it to heart, but the warning in her eyes was self-evident. She did not hide the frightening coldness in her eyes. Then, she looked at the sky and counted to Du Xiaofu. Child, your father has appeared. He has already entered the divine realm. Is the drunkard's father out? Du Xiaofu's eyes immediately surged with golden light, revealing a happy expression. There was finally news of his drunkard's father, and he had even entered the divine realm. Rumble. Suddenly, the sky trembled. From the depths of the splendid avenue, rays of light swept down and condensed into several figures that fell from the sky one after another. They were a few middle-aged and young men. Their faces were filled with shock, and their eyes were filled with fear. "What did you guys suffer?" someone asked, wanting to know the situation inside. However, all the experts were not surprised. Rumor had it that not long after the divine realm opened, there would be people who were killed or met with danger, and finally sent out of the divine realm. Someone started a massacre inside and stole the Chinkuan pouches. A middle-aged man came back to his senses. He had just experienced death and had truly walked between life and death. His heart was still trembling, and his body was still trembling. When he saw the experts around him asking him questions, he did not dare to be rude and told them everything while trembling. Chi La, another figure, fell with a face full of fear and shock. It was a follower of a great family. "I met with danger, and before I could react, I met with disaster." That person spoke, scared out of his wits, and could not calm down. These people who were pushed out of the divine realm stood in midair, their bodies trembling. It seemed that they did not dare to rashly enter again. Last time, they had a life-saving talisman, so they could still be safe and sound. If they forced their way in again and met with disaster, then their souls would really be destroyed. They had just faced death, and the aura of death made them feel lingering fear, and their bodies were still weak. "Drunkard's father, I'm coming," Du Xiaofu softly said, facing the magnificent path behind him. Step by step, he stepped onto the runic stairs, as if he was ascending to the heavens. But at this moment, another shocking incident occurred. The talisman stairs beneath Du Xiaofu's feet collapsed inch by inch, and it transformed into ancient talisman markings that dispersed into the surroundings. It was profound and gorgeous, and it caused everyone to exclaim with admiration. All laws follow their origin, and they are often destroyed. "So that's how it is," Du Xiaofu softly said, his eyes filled with joy. Step by step, the runes behind him crumbled inch by inch, turning into ancient runes that dissipated. The divine realm's punishment no longer descended. What did he comprehend just now? It's too astonishing. This child is astonishing. He's not an ordinary person. The surrounding experts exclaimed in admiration. They were not mortals, and could feel that the changes caused by Du Xiaofu were inextricably linked to the benefits they had comprehended. He's Du Xiaofu, the great supreme nirvanic who swept through the 9 great families and dragons. The legalists are pushing out an extraordinary nirvana-level grand supreme nirvana-level expert. That's not all. The school of legalism has provoked a terrifying father and son, as well as many other factions. Rumor has it that legalism did some shameless things to that little guy, personally turning a junior with boundless prospects into a mortal enemy. An expert sighed in a low voice. Legalism's expression became gloomy and ugly. This was a slap in the face. Boom! The entrance to the divine domain was a gate filled with purple mist. There was a resplendent stream of light that was condensed from ancient and mysterious runes. It appeared in front of Du Xiaofu's forehead, flashing with light and carrying with it the aura of reincarnation. It was a secret rune of a talisman. The light of the secret rune jumped, as if it was sizing up Du Xiaofu. But soon after, it directly escaped from Du Xiaofu's forehead and disappeared, leaving Du Xiaofu in a daze. Du Xiaofu clearly felt that the talisman ciphertext was about to land on his forehead, but for some reason, the talisman ciphertext seemed to sense something and disappeared in the end. Haha, that brat didn't obtain the complete recognition of the divine realm. He didn't obtain a life-saving talisman. Legalism's Li Chenfa and Qin Tianshi suddenly laughed, as if they had seen Du Xiaofu being killed in front of their eyes. They had seen with their own eyes that the arrogant brat didn't obtain a life-saving talisman. If he were to suffer an accident in the divine realm, then he would really suffer a calamity. Strange, such a heavenly talent doesn't have a life-saving talisman? The surrounding experts whispered, feeling very strange. Such a heavenly talent didn't obtain the protection of a life-saving talisman. Rumor has it that those of the older generation, or those with the talent and potential to enter the divine realm, but their potential and talent aren't too strong, so they won't obtain the protection of a life-saving talisman. In the divine realm, everything was taken care of by the heavenly talents and the supremes, taking care of the top people in the world. The stronger one's talent, the more protection they would receive. On the other hand, those with poor talent wouldn't even have a life-saving talisman. Strange, the divine realm shouldn't be wrong. Could it be that the brat's talent isn't as strong as we thought? Strange. Du Xiaofu's situation caused a lot of discussion and attracted the attention of the experts of the present age. However, Du Xiaofu didn't care. He directly stepped into the space of the deity domain, and his figure completely disappeared. Chapter 1594. Let's wait. The opening of the Divine Dominion will take at least half a year to 3 years. It's not a short period of time. Let's wait for their triumphant return. Seeing that Du Xiaofu had also entered the Divine Dominion, an expert spoke, waiting for the triumphant return of their disciples in the Divine Dominion. They naturally had to wait here. If their disciples brought back an opportunity, it was hard to guarantee that they wouldn't be targeted. Therefore, they had to wait here personally to ensure that nothing went wrong, especially since this was the last opening of the Divine Dominion. The opportunity was even greater, and they couldn't afford to make any mistakes. As for whether they would take action when someone came out with a great opportunity, that would depend on the situation. If that kind of opportunity was enough to make them green with envy, no one could be sure what would happen when the time came. However, many experts present were praying that their disciples wouldn't encounter the Demon King, Du Xiaofu, and Du Tingxian. Du Tingxian had already destroyed his own cultivation. If he couldn't cultivate it back, he wouldn't be a threat. If he wanted to cultivate it back, the chances were slim, unless it was a miracle. Since ancient times, no one had dared to try. However, the Demon King, Du Xiaofu, was truly unrivaled. Whoever provoked him would definitely be unlucky. With that in mind, many of the supreme experts present glanced towards the school of legalism. The school of legalism was probably the most unlucky one in the world recently. Some people were even looking forward to it. After the Divine Dominion closed, if the Demon King, Du Xiaofu, could obtain a great opportunity to advance further, legalism would definitely be unlucky. Whoosh whoosh. Gradually, many figures appeared on the Chunhuang mainland. A wormhole opened in the distance. The core experts of various forces were also rushing over. They separated into groups and waited on the Chunhuang mainland. The opening of the Divine Domain would take at least half a year to 3 years. Although it wasn't a short period of time, for the cultivators present, it was just a short period of time. In the long years of cultivation, it wasn't considered much. What the powerhouses of the various large forces were most worried about was whether or not the disciples and descendants of their sects would be able to obtain lucky chances in the realm of the gods and bring thousands of years of fortune to their sects and families. Do you think you can still come out? Kid, without the life-saving talisman, you're dead for sure. On a mountain peak, Li Chunfa gazed into the depths of the Divine Domain, a cold light flashing in his eyes. The space of the Divine Domain was a world of its own. It was an ancient existence, a ruin left behind from ancient times. It was a mythical existence. It was rumored that in the space of the God Plane, there were not only caves of ancient sects, but also things left behind by ancient experts. There was even the possibility of ancient demonic beasts. For the space of the Divine Domain, even for those super experts of the current era, it was only a myth. Ordinary people simply could not imagine how powerful those experts and huge sects in the ancient times were. Great rivers and lofty mountains, verdant and lush green. The energy of heaven and earth was rich, and from time to time, ancient runes floated in the air. When this isolated space of the Divine Domain appeared, it welcomed all living beings with the potential and qualifications to enter from all over the world. Du Xiaofu took a step forward and immediately entered the space of the Divine Domain. Facing the vast space, the ancient aura was oppressive, as if he had crossed through time and space to enter the ancient times. Du Xiaofu's mind trembled. An enormous skeleton of several thousand feet stretched across the valley, winding its way into the distance. The white bones were eerie and filled with runes. It was filled with an ancient aura, exuding the might of a beast that had passed through the ages. However, the secret bone was already gone. It had been obtained by someone. The skeleton of a giant bird covered the mountains with its wings stretched across several mountain peaks. It spread its wings and soared into the sky. Its ferocious aura still lingered, causing one's heart to palpitate. There was a deep abyss that stretched across the mountain range. It was so long that one couldn't see the end of it. The abyss surface was as if it had been cut off by a sharp weapon. It was done with a single strike. How terrifying was the strength of the person who did this? In the distance, there was a group of mountain peaks. The mountain peaks were all cut off and smooth. The strength of the powerhouse who did this was unfathomable. What a shocking place. Du Xiaofu stood in the air and looked around. He breathed in the air that came from the ancient times. Standing in this ancient land, he seemed to be able to faintly feel the tyrannical power of the ancient times. It was an era where heroes fought for supremacy. In the ancient times, powerhouses emerged one after another. Geniuses rose together, supremes ran amok, and hundreds of schools of thought contended. It made one's blood boil. Whoosh whoosh. In the surrounding sky, there were occasionally many figures flitting across the sky. However, they were in groups of 3 or 5. Some were in groups of 7 or 8. However, they formed their own formations and didn't attack each other. Everyone here was in the early stages of the martial domain realm. No one had much of an advantage. Without absolute confidence, no one would take the risk to attack. Some people saw Du Xiaofu. It was unknown if they knew him, but they didn't have the intention to harass him. Du Xiaofu looked around for a while. The space of the divine domain had a total of 33 entrances. At this moment, it seemed that they had all converged into one. He had delayed his breakthrough, so it would be difficult for him to find Du Xiaoyao, Jialo Kaling, and the others. It was said that the space of the divine domain was as vast as a world. Look for opportunities. After a while, Du Xiaofu's figure disappeared from the spot. He had already delayed his breakthrough, so he didn't want to miss out on opportunities. In the vast space, one could see an endless stream of people. Du Xiaofu truly felt how tempting the space of the divine domain was to the living beings of the world. Roar, there were demonic beasts soaring into the sky, ferocious birds flapping their wings, and figures riding on Dharma artifacts flying across the sky. Bang, bang, bang. Wherever there were people, there would be disputes. Occasionally, there would be shocking battles that resounded in all directions. Du Xiaofu didn't pay attention to them. He didn't recognize those people either. His sharp primordial spirit didn't sense any familiar auras. Suddenly, Du Xiaofu stopped in midair. He looked into the distance and looked into the depths of a vast mountain range. In the depths of the mountain range, Du Xiaofu's redbone horse monkey primordial spirit felt a kind of energy fluctuation. The fluctuation should have come from a kind of treasure medicine, and it wasn't an ordinary treasure medicine. As expected of the space of the divine domain, there's already a harvest. Du Xiaofu's eyes were smiling. Then, he turned into a golden rainbow and disappeared in midair. Golden sun spiritual fruit. A moment later, in the vast abyss, Du Xiaofu held a glittering, translucent spirit fruit in his hand. It was pulsing with energy. This was a kind of treasure medicine. It was probably at least 8,000 years old. The surge of energy made Du Xiaofu's eyes light up. His heart beat, along with the energy fluctuation. It was rumored that the golden sun spiritual fruit was very useful to experts of the domain realm. My luck is not bad. Du Xiaofu put away the golden sun spiritual fruit with satisfaction. Then, he rushed out of the mountain range and the abyss. Kid, what did you just get? Hand it over, and I'll spare your life. Just as Du Xiaofu rushed out of the abyss, a group of figures suddenly appeared. There were men and women, old and young. There was a total of 10 people. Their eyes were cold and mocking. Du Xiaofu got off to a bad start and was robbed. This kid doesn't seem to have a life-saving charm. It seems like he doesn't have any talent. He must have forced his way in. Haha, he dares to enter the space of the divine domain with such talent? He's courting death. Someone noticed that Du Xiaofu didn't have a life-saving charm in between his eyebrows. Immediately, They roared with laughter and no longer put Du Xiaofu in their eyes. Du Xiaofu looked at the 10 people around him. There was a light in between their eyebrows. Looking carefully, it was a series of ancient ciphertext. He had seen it at the entrance of the divine domain, but it disappeared in front of him. Life-saving charm. Du Xiaofu raised his eyebrows, feeling very depressed in his heart. Why was it that everyone seemed to have a life-saving talisman, but he didn't? Could it be that the space of God's domain had punished him, so it was a punishment for him? If that was the case, the punishment was too heavy. Du Xiaofu felt depressed and annoyed. Kid, are you an idiot for not speaking? Quickly hand over the Chinkuan bag. Otherwise, you'll die. A burly man looked at Du Xiaofu and shouted. At first, he wanted the treasure, but now he wanted the Chinkuan bag. He didn't put Du Xiaofu in his eyes. Chapter 1595. Hand over your cosmos bags and get out of here. Du Xiaofu finally opened his mouth. Since they had been robbed, he was feeling depressed and did not have a good temper. Moreover, to Du Xiaofu, it was good enough that he did not rob others. Since someone had robbed him, how could he let it go? This was his old profession. Hearing Du Xiaofu's words, the 10 people were startled. Then, a cold sneer appeared in their eyes. This was the divine domain. No matter how strong one's cultivation was, they would be suppressed to the martial domain realm. Everyone was at the same cultivation level. Now that there were 10 of them, no matter how strong the other party was, 10 against 1, they would definitely win. Brat, you're courting death. A big man shouted coldly. His eyes were filled with killing intent. He immediately attacked, not wanting to talk nonsense. It was not the first time they had done something like this. Then, everything went beyond the 10 people's expectations. An unforgettable scene happened, which made them tremble with fear. Bang, bang, bang. With a series of muffled sounds, the 10 people exploded and turned into a bloody mist. Then, they were enveloped by a mysterious light and disappeared. Not even the bloody mist was left. Dozens of cosmos bags also appeared in Du Xiaofu's hands. Du Xiaofu stretched out his hand. Golden light burst out, trying to imprison that mysterious light. That was a life-saving talisman, which aroused Du Xiaofu's curiosity. However, that mysterious light could not be immobilized and disappeared instantly. So strange. It seems to contain many profound techniques. Du Xiaofu felt that the mysterious light was similar to the runes on the splendid light avenue outside. He decided to find a chance to study it. Maybe he would find something special. After opening the dozens of cosmos bags, Du Xiaofu gained a lot. Then, he put them away and left. Du Xiaofu wanted to enter the depths of the divine domain to search for opportunities. He also wanted to find Du Xiaoyao, Dongli Diao, the general, the silver-winged demonic condor, and Gu Che as soon as possible. Du Xiaofu was slightly worried about the shameless legalism. There was a chance that the legalism's members would take action against the people around him in God's domain. This wasn't the first time the legalism had done something like this, so he had to be careful. At the same time, on the Chunhuang mainland, 10 figures fell at the same time. When they stabilized their bodies, their eyes were filled with shock. The 10 of them were actually killed in an instant. If it weren't for their life-saving talismans, their souls would have been destroyed by now. The 10 of them raised their heads and looked at the god's domain. They were hesitating whether they should enter the god's domain to search for opportunities after losing their life-saving talismans. Whoosh whoosh. In the end, the 10 people couldn't resist the temptation. After stabilizing their emotions and suppressing the fear in their hearts, they still chose to enter. The temptation of the divine domain was a fatal temptation to cultivators. It was irresistible. Whoosh whoosh, Du Xiaofu flew in the god's domain. Along the way, he encountered more and more people. There were countless ferocious beasts and spiritual beasts. However, he didn't encounter any robberies in places where there were more people. Quick, the senior brother in front sent a message. A great treasure has appeared up ahead. Don't let others beat us to it. Many figures flew in one direction, flying in the air. A treasure has appeared. Du Xiaofu's sharp primordial spirit probed. His eyes immediately lit up. How could he miss it? He immediately blended into the crowd. In the huge crowd, no one would notice him. There were so many living beings in the world. Although the Demon King Du Xiaofu's name had spread across the world, not everyone knew the Demon King. Flying in the air, many figures were flying in the same direction. They were from various factions. These people should have the means to communicate with each other. Once they discovered a treasure and needed to fight for it, they would inform their fellow sect members and allies to help. A large number of people surged. Du Xiaofu blended in with the crowd. He felt that the treasure ahead was definitely not simple. Otherwise, it wouldn't have caused such a huge commotion. Along the way, Du Xiaofu even saw many disciples of the top factions in the 9 prefectures. Roar. The vast valley had an ancient aura. Faint beast roars could be heard, shaking one's soul. At least 2,000 figures gathered in front of the valley. They were all here for the treasure. Du Xiaofu blended in with the crowd and looked into the deep valley. Occasionally, the roars of demonic beasts would be heard. They were very shocking, as if they came from ancient times. Purple Feather Sect, believers of legalism. Suddenly, in front of the valley, Du Xiaofu saw some familiar figures. Although he hadn't interacted with them before, he had seen them in legalism. The Purple Feather Sect of the Yu Prefecture was a believer of legalism. Currently, many disciples of the Purple Feather Sect were entrenched in front of the valley. They seemed to be guarding the valley, preventing anyone from entering. There was even a 9-star initial ascension talisman array in front of the valley. It enveloped the valley, preventing anyone from entering. However, it was obvious that the disciples of the Purple Feather Sect had underestimated the temptation of the treasure hunt. For some reason, they had leaked the news and attracted more than 2,000 people. Everyone here was in the initial martial domain realm. Hence, the 20 or so disciples of the Purple Feather Sect were quite fearful of the thousands of people who were rushing over. Furthermore, there were many violent demonic beasts and disciples of other factions among the people who had come. Their tempers weren't very good. When a treasure appears, the fated ones will obtain it. Everyone can fight for it. What is the Purple Feather Sect trying to do? Does the Purple Feather Sect not care about others? Open the talisman array and let us in. Loud shouts rang out one after another. Many people were furious. Their auras were overbearing and they were about to attack. Don't make a ruckus. Our Purple Feather Sect discovered it first. A disciple of the Purple Feather Sect shouted and mustered his courage. However, he didn't have much confidence in the face of 2,000 people. There were even more people rushing over. However, Du Xiaofu's gaze was fixed on the valley. Even though the talisman array was blocking him, he could still feel the shocking energy fluctuations coming from inside. The energy fluctuations were extremely shocking. There were talisman scripts spreading out from the depths of the valley. The roars of beasts were shocking. There was an ancient and boundless aura, as if it came from ancient times. What treasure is that? It should be very powerful. Du Xiaofu took a deep breath. There was some yearning on his face. The treasure in the valley must be extraordinary. The Purple Feather Sect is too much. It was clearly discovered by many people. Why should they take it for themselves? Let's charge in. With the treasure in front of them, the crowd was furious. Their auras surged, and they were about to break the talisman array. A few thousand people together could easily break through the talisman array. That talisman array is extraordinary. It might be difficult to break through it. There were many talisman array masters present. Their eyes lit up. They could see that the talisman array wasn't simple. It wouldn't be easy to break through it. Humph. You should think carefully. There are people of legalism inside. If you want to break through, you won't be able to bear the price. A disciple of the Purple Feather Sect spoke. Legalism was mentioned. There were people of legalism in the valley at the moment. Legalism. Those who could enter the divine domain had some background. They knew what legalism represented. Immediately, some people's eyes twitched. They weren't afraid of the Purple Feather Sect. However, they couldn't help but be wary of legalism. Legalism? So what? Do you think you can take the treasure for yourself? A young man shouted in front of the crowd. He was also from a large sect and had a powerful orthodoxy behind him. Chi. At that moment, a figure rushed out from the talisman array. An extremely powerful energy fluctuation and a dazzling talisman array shot out like lightning. The powerful energy fluctuation was like an arrow leaving the bow. It was as powerful as lightning and instantly hit the young man who had shouted. Bang! With a dull sound, the young man's figure directly shattered. Then, he was wrapped in mysterious talisman array and disappeared. He had been killed on the spot. An unordinary youth appeared here. His aura was extremely powerful. He stood there unordinary, and as he looked around, his eyes carried disdain and contempt. My school of legalism is inside. Who dares to barge into the formation? Are you all looking to die? Oh no, it's someone of legalism. Everyone's expression changed. They were absolutely terrified. Those who were closer to the extraordinary young man quickly retreated. There were many ferocious birds in the air. Some of the demonic beasts had ominous glints in their eyes. However, facing the legalism young man, they immediately restrained themselves. The young man proudly looked at the people in front of the valley and said, "Of course, everyone can fight for the treasure. My legalism is not unreasonable. 200 people can enter the valley and fight for the treasure together. The number of people is limited. Those who sign up first will go in. As for the rest, leave early." Hearing this, some people in front of the valley hesitated. However, there were also people who immediately signed up. They had forgotten that they were about to break through the talisman array. Under the intimidation and temptation, the number of people who signed up immediately exceeded 200. 200 people are enough. The rest of you can leave. The legalism young man said arrogantly. Those who did not sign up were disappointed. Those who signed up smiled and looked forward to it. They hoped that they would have a chance to obtain the treasure. Although there were still some people who were dissatisfied, no one dared to say anything. Legalism is really shameless. I'm afraid there is a huge danger inside. Find some people and use them as cannon fodder. A mocking voice came out from the crowd. Who is it? Get out here. A terrifying aura suddenly shrouded Du Xiaofu. The voice was deafening. The young man's eyes were filled with killing intent. If I come out, you will run away. Du Xiaofu's expression was indifferent as he stepped forward amidst the commotion. In an instant, every gaze in the valley landed on Du Xiaofu's body. The legalism young man's gaze passed through the crowd and landed on Du Xiaofu. In an instant, his arrogant face was filled with fear and shock. It was as if he had seen a ghost. Du Xiaofu, it's you. A shocked voice came out from the legalism young man's mouth. He could not help but tremble. Qinjia, I didn't expect you to be so arrogant outside, Du Xiaofu said with a faint smile. The young man was none other than the legalism young man, Qinjia. At this moment, Du Xiaofu knew that there must be a huge danger in the valley. Qinjia had come out to find someone, not to fight for the treasure, but to bring some cannon fodder inside. However, encountering the Purple Feather sect and the legalism young man here, Du Xiaofu could not help but feel that it was a small world.